Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, members of the public who wish to watch and listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner: WCTV, Channel 9, Comcast Infinity, or Channel 37 Verizon Fios, and live stream on wctv.org. This meeting of the Wilmington Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter the meeting ID 850-9299-7368. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted, then press star 9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. All callers using this feature will be placed in queue in the order they entered the prompt. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. I have 7:06.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if you could do a roll call for the attendance of the commissioners, that would be great.
Certainly. Vinny?
Here.
Ron?
I'm here.
Laura?
Hello.
Tom?
Here.
Mike?
Present.
Alex?
Here.
And myself, Don Pearson. Are we set now, Valerie?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is a request for determination for 30 North Street. Hi.
Hi, that is us.
Good. Could you tell us what you're planning, please?
Sure. We are putting an addition on our house, and we wanted to add a 6-foot by 24-foot front porch onto it. We've been cleared by all the other departments. We are about, I think, 2 feet over the 100-foot buffer to conservation. We submitted the WPA form. We're digging on top of our driveway. No foundation. We're putting gravel underneath it for drainage, and we plan on planting lots of plants around it. Oh yes, there is the map parcel. So it's just a small porch on one side, and we were just hoping it was going to be allowed. So I don't know if you have any questions or.
Thanks very much. Valerie, do you have any comments?
So the porch is about 60 feet from the wetlands. We advise the commission to just require erosion controls for the work, and that's all we had.
Great.
And I actually, Mr. Chairman, if I could take the opportunity also to introduce our new conservation agent, Cameron Lynch. He joined us a few weeks ago and has been helping out, and it's a new life that I have with help from Cameron. So I appreciate him joining us, and if you haven't met him already, I'm sure you'll meet him at some point soon. So wanted to introduce him.
Great, thanks. Welcome, Cameron.
Thank you.
Sure.
Valerie, when you say erosion controls, is that, can you just expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. So the silt fence or the straw wattle, I think you actually probably showed it on your plans before. That would,
We already have all of those. in
Okay, just
place.
so,
Yeah.
so you meant for the construction portion. Okay, I got it.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any comments, Vinny?
Yeah, nothing was mentioned about that shed on the right-hand side. Is that going to be moved? Is that, there's no measurements here, so is that
Staying.
going to be
Yeah.
moved?
That was there when we bought the house.
We're not moving it.
Yeah, we're not
Nothing's
It was
changing
just
to that.
there for 20 years, I think, or so. We're not touching it.
I don't know how close that is to the wetlands. Is that going to comply?
Like Betsy
Valerie?
said, that was there when we bought the place.
So the previous owners, before us in 2007, put on an addition already. They put on a great room. So I know at one point the deck had been there all along. I mean, the shed had been there the whole time. They had wanted to do a bigger deck, but they said conservation wouldn't let them do a bigger deck. So if you can see on the picture, it's kind of like an L-shaped deck because you guys made them cut it back a bit. I've never heard anything mentioned about the shed just because it's.
And there's no
been
no
there.
foundation in the shed either.
Yeah,
it's
it's-
on basically
Like
cinder blocks.
I
almost.
think. So
Valerie, I'm asking, is that going to be okay?
Vinny, it doesn't meet the 15-foot no disturb, but you know, it's because it's been there for quite some time. You know, it's sort of an existing condition. So it currently doesn't meet what you would want to see a shed to meet.
Okay, so what you're saying is we're going to let it stay there?
That's up to you guys, but that's up to you.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
Oh, Don, let me unmute you. Sorry about that. I have control of the mute button, so if you need to be unmuted, just raise your hand or send me a chat.
Okay, thanks. I muted myself just to eliminate noise in the background. Do you hear it now, or is it quiet?
Nope, we hear you.
All
I
right.
think it's
I was going to ask, can you estimate how far the shed is from the wetlands, just to give us an idea?
maybe 10 feet, 15 feet.
I mean, I guess it depends on where the wetlands start, because sometimes they'll depending on how much rain there is over a season, it ebbs and flows. But yeah, it's probably about 10, 15 feet.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, next comment, Laura?
I don't see a problem. The existing shed is there. So I don't see a problem with the deck and anything that's in front of us. I understand Vinny's concern that the shed is an existing condition, and we've in the past required people to make sure stuff like that isn't within that 15-foot. But I mean, if it's up on cinder blocks, I'm kind of picturing it like, you know, the fence requirements that we have, making sure there's a 6-foot gap underneath, which I'm sure there probably is. So I don't see a problem with the shed. I think if they were gonna add to the shed or do something with it, we'd have an issue, but they're asking about the deck.
We haven't done anything to the shed or
No, we're
plan
not
on
touching the
it.
shed.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the only thing that's not getting touched in the house.
Thanks. Ron?
I'm okay with it providing the erosion controls.
How about you, Tom?
Looks good to me.
Mike?
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I would suggest to the proponent that they might want to check, not likely, but it's a possibility there was a permit gain for the shed. So you might want to research that and have that in your back pocket.
Okay.
Alex?
No comment.
Okay, did I miss anyone? I'm doing this off on the side here. Everyone all set? I have no issues with the porch or the shed. How about any raised hands from the public for comments?
So if any members of the public have a comment for this, they can press *9 on your keypad or raise your hand to indicate that you have a comment or a question. And as we've said before, there is a little bit of a delay on WCTV if you're watching from home on TV. So as I'm talking, maybe that will catch up. Don, we don't have any raised hands.
Okay, fine. Could I have a motion then to issue a negative, is it a -3, Valerie?
It is.
For 30 North Street, please? Could you tell me who made the motion?
Laura did.
Laura. Okay, thank you, Laura. Is there a second?
Second.
And Vinny made the second. I'll call the roll in for the vote. Vinny?
Oh, okay.
Ron?
Yes, okay.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
I also vote yes. So we're all set there.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And we'll be in touch with the paperwork.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yep,
Thanks.
good night.
Have a great one.
Yep, bye now. The next item on the agenda is a request for determination for the railroad right-of-way.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Donovan from FDC Engineers representing Keolis.
Hi, Matt. Go ahead.
All right. I don't know if I'm allowed to share my screen. Would that be possible?
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
Okay. Where is it? Okay. So I just wanted to show you the vegetation management website, which is included in the application that was submitted to you. As you can see here, it's easy to navigate and you can choose your town to see the maps that we've provided you with as well. And it also has the vegetation management plan on it. Here's the maps that we have presented you with. There are 3 of them because you have 3 different lines that run through your town. And so this is a good website to stay updated throughout time on the vegetation management activities that take place on the railroad. It's always updated. The RDA was submitted to your commission as part of the CMR 11, as well as specific sections of CMR 10, which require us to submit the delineated maps to confirm the boundaries are accurate. The requirements are part of a 5-year vegetation management plan, which is a plan designed to manage and control vegetation as necessary to keep the railroad and public safe. The sensitive areas are protected during this duration of this plan. Their restrictions are listed in detail in the vegetation management plan and in section 8 of CMR 11.04. As part of the 5-year vegetation management plan, your commission, as well as the Board of Health, the Board of Selectmen, the Department of Agricultural Resources, are supplied annually with a yearly operational plan, which goes into more depth of the vegetation management activities for each year. And we do send that to your commission via certified mail every year. The vegetation management plan includes an integrative vegetation management approach where chemical application as well as physical and mechanical methods are used to combat the vegetation. Best management practices are used throughout the plan and a limit to reduce the chemical application, which has been an objective of Keolis. The maps we've provided you with are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan. They were made with USGS and MassGIS layers to determine the boundaries of the sensitive and protected areas. And we get an updated list of private wells adjacent to the railroad from the Department of Agricultural Resources. The plans don't change often because the restrictions don't change. And if they do, they are updated as necessary, but these are the same maps that your commission confirmed in 2016. As you can see, there are areas depicted on the maps as limited and no spray zones based on the color-coded system. In the field on the railroad tracks, the tracks are marked with the same color-coded system, and as a spray truck performs the application, there's an environmental monitor who's a direct employee of Keolis's environmental team in the truck who has the maps on them and instructs the operator as necessary. And most importantly, the yellow zones will never be sprayed. And in the blue zones, the conditions have to be, really in the blue zones, it's only sprayed on an as needed basis. The roadbed itself, the tracks are always sprayed because that is federally mandated to be vegetation free. But as far as outside of the roadbed, that's really only sprayed as needed and never more than the limited interval allows. And in those zones, more of an effort is taken into physical and mechanical measures to control outside the track. And the chemicals that are used come from the Department of Agricultural Resources approved sensitive area material list, which is in the vegetation management plan and can be found on the Department of Agricultural Resources website. And the last thing I should mention is that the applicator has been doing this for the past 20 years on this railroad and is required to be licensed and certified to do this. And I think that's pretty much the process right there. If you guys have any questions, I can open the floor up.
Thank you, Matt.
Welcome.
Valerie, anything to say?
No, we did review these plans just to kind of gauge them against what we have on our GIS, and we did confirm that they're the same. They look the same as the ones that were approved previously. So we didn't have any comments.
Thank you. Vinny.
What do they do, in the other areas that that you're spraying? The areas that you're not spraying, what do you do to control everything?
In those areas, physical and mechanical measures will be taken outside of the roadbed. So the only way you can spray the track itself directly down is from chemical application. Outside of that, sometimes we try to use mechanical measures to control vegetation.
Okay. I'm good.
Thanks. Ron?
I just wondered what the designations on the map, DEP approved zone 1 and DEP approved zone 2.
Yeah, so that's given in that can be found in detail in the vegetation management plan, what the definition of those zones are. And I think you can still see my screen. This is the vegetation management plan here, and I believe in section 8, if I can find it.
I did stop sharing your screen so that we could see the whole commission. So
okay, no worries. So yeah, that's in section 8 of the vegetation management plan, and in CMR 11.04 that is gives the detailed list of what is included in those zones.
So Ron, those would be our groundwater protection districts and locations around our drinking wells.
Just more sensitive areas is a reasonable. Okay.
Right.
Laura?
I don't have any comments.
Tom?
Well, let me unmute Tom. Sorry about that.
No questions, Don.
Thanks. Mike?
I got three questions, one for Valerie and two for the representative. Valerie first. Does the railroad have to comply with the town's tree removal policy when they use mechanical means for removing vegetation?
We didn't intend for them to fall under that policy. They would be, I don't know that they would be able to replace trees, within what they control. So we've never applied it to them.
Okay, just wanted to know. And then for the representative, sorry, I didn't get your name or remembered. You said the limit of the spraying is within the roadbed. What's the limit of the roadbed?
The limit of the roadbed is from ditch to ditch. So it's the ties with the rail, and from the edge of the tie is typically 6 inches until the ballast starts to slope down. And then beyond that, the ditch starts, and that would be considered right up until the ditch would be considered the roadbed.
Okay. The ditch can be quite wide and go on for quite a distance beyond the track, but in any event.
Right, yeah, and what I meant was the ditch was not considered part of the track.
Okay.
So right up until the ditch.
And then, lastly, is there any requirement, or do we do any notification to abutters when it's going to be spraying?
No, so we don't. We send it to the Board of Health. The yearly operational plan includes the interval of times when the spraying occurs, and we are required to send it to your commission, the Board of Health, and the Board of Selectmen in each town, as well as it is posted by the Department of Agricultural Resources annually for the public. As far as notifying abutters, no, that doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you.
Alex?
No comment.
Matt, I had a couple of questions. One of them, where there's no legend on the track, it's neither black nor yellow nor blue, just blank. Does that imply that you can spray if you believe you need to there, or not spray, or what do you typically do?
That means there would be those areas have no restrictions for spraying. So as it is always a as needed basis, technically there are no restrictions in those areas.
And is that where you attempt to do mechanical elimination of vegetation as opposed to chemical? Do you prioritize mechanical over chemical?
I would say we prioritize mechanical over chemical in the places that do have restrictions, because as there are more restrictions to spray the pesticides, we need to put more effort into the mechanical measures in those areas.
Yeah, okay. I just noticed that, some of those areas may parallel streets, and it would have been nice to think that you'd attempt to cut the weeds down as opposed to spray them where there's, traffic, businesses, residences, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and in those zones, if that is the case, if there's never a concern like that, that would if that's the we don't spray at platforms, and if the street is the boom of the spray truck wouldn't extend and spray near the street.
Okay, and the second question is, the difference between the blue and the black is 1 year versus 2 year. Do you supply the operator with some sort of chart to let them know what they did or didn't spray the year before? Is it actually that meticulous when you do that?
It is that meticulous, and it's not like I had mentioned before. There's a environmental monitor who is a direct employee of Keolis, who is very familiar with all the lines, not just in your town, but throughout the whole Keolis system. And yeah, it is very meticulous as far as knowing what years and the conditions. They know beforehand, before they're out in the truck, they will know what the plan of action is for each line for each year.
Thanks. Valerie, do we have any member of the public who'd like to comment or ask a question?
So far, we do not have any raised hands. If you do have a comment or a question, you can press *9 if you're a caller, or raise your hand if you're on the Zoom. So we do not have any raised hands, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so are we looking for a, which determination is this? Also a 3?
I do believe so.
Okay. Could I have a motion then to issue a -3 determination for the railway right-of-way?
So moved.
Ron made the motion. Could I have a second, please?
Second,
Vinny seconded.
yes,
How do you vote, Vinny?
I'm okay with it.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So, thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well. The next item on the agenda is a request for determination of applicability for 15 Winston Ave.
And if you could, if the representative is in the meeting, if you could just kind of raise your hand so that I know who you are. Okay. All right. There you are. All right, so I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Thank you. Peter DiBernardo from Gibraltar Pools in Topsfield.
Could you describe what's going on, Peter, please?
Yes, my homeowner would like to assemble an above-ground pool. We're about 25 feet away from the flagging. And, you know, that's what we want to do. It's I've described it in the narrative of the application. We intend to come in with a bobcat. We don't use real heavy equipment, just a miniature tractor. We'll make a rectangular score cut incision. We will lay down some washed mason sand, and we'll be in and out in a day. The machine will be there for less than an hour.
Okay, thanks. Valerie?
So as the gentleman described, the pool is proposed about 25 feet from the wetland. We recommend that erosion controls be used. The town engineer wanted me to pass along the message that this, to the applicant, that this is in the groundwater protection district. So you'll need to calculate the percentage of impervious cover on the site and make sure that it meets the 15% or less. If it's above that, a special permit from the Board of Appeals would be required.
Is that something we should have the surveyor calculate?
Yeah,
Val, did you get the certified plot plan? It's not this one that you have up. I had submitted a subsequent to that.
I believe
survey.
I believe we did.
Okay.
We did. I don't know if I have it on my computer. This is why I pulled this one up. But I think it essentially kind of shows the same thing, just much neater. And again, it's 25 feet from the wetlands.
Valerie,
Yes.
there is one discrepancy in the plan you're showing versus the one they submitted. The one we have in front of us, the engineered plan is shows 30 feet off of MOA versus 40 here. Still 25 feet from the BVGW, but just which one are we voting on? Because
it would be the 30-foot. That's what was done by the surveyor. So we're going to require a ZBA variance anyway there. But first things first, that's why we're before the board for this one first, you know.
okay.
Thanks, Valerie. Vinny? Do you have any?
Well, I'd like to know what kind of filter they're using and where they're going to clean the filter on the backwash.
So there will be no backwashing. I did mention in the narrative, it's going to be a cartridge system. So all the water stays on an internal cycle. No water leaves the pool. The cartridge system requires no backwashing of treated pool water into the yard.
Well, you're going to replace the filter all the time, or are you
No,
going to? Are you
it has
going to?
Yes, it has a cartridge that lasts for 3 years. It's approximately 18 inches tall by maybe a 9-inch circumference. And that would be rinsed periodically, probably a half a dozen times a year with a hose or with sometimes people soak it in a bucket.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron?
Mention the pool itself is going to be with cantilever safety ledge and rail barrier. What does that mean?
So in order to reach people in distress, there is a ledge that cantilevers out from the edge of the water of the pool. So it's a 2-foot ledge all the way around the pool. So if you're at the end of the pool, you can run down and reach somebody who may be in distress in the pool. It's not something really we encounter, but it's a useful tool if you have a non-swimmer or somebody, just to get faster to somebody who's at the other end of the pool. And then on top of that, it's got the railing, which meets the barrier codes. So it's pretty much impenetrable. It's a retractable ladder which locks up. So,
okay. And I would be more comfortable if we said it is at least 25 feet from the bordering vegetative wetlands rather than approximately 25 feet. Is that?
Ron, we did do a site visit, and the 25 feet looked to be correct.
Great.
Laura?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a pool, so I don't know all the bits and pieces that go into owning and maintaining one. Definitely during the construction and creation of the pool, I would want to see erosion control. I see that there's gonna be the stand there. Is there gonna be some measure to kind of keep that where you put it, or?
yeah, we'll put we usually use on something like this staked silt sock, which we'll have delivered. And I assume, Valerie, you'd want to see that in place before we do anything.
I'm thinking long term, like you're going to have this sand placed underneath the pool and kids running around it and et cetera, et cetera. Is there something to just kind of keep that in that, like kind of in that area and not running into the wetland?
The sand under the pool?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this will be under the liner. So that the weight of the water will keep that in place.
Immediately under the pool and not kind of around it.
Yeah, no, it won't be. It's just what's required for the pool construction.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm okay with it. I know Vinny was asking about the filter cartridge, and I think, you mentioned that it gets washed a couple times or several times a year, and I think they just want to make sure that they don't wash that close to the wetland in and near the kind of no disturb area, just to keep, whatever chlorine chemicals out of the wetland.
I'm with you. I'll make sure. Yeah. When we do the pool school with them, I'll make sure that that's mentioned. I'm sure it'll be part of the approval anyway, if it goes that way.
No questions.
Mike?
Nothing for Mike.
Nothing for Mike. Alex?
Is there significant drainage of the pool? Are you going to lower the water level at the end of the season?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So with most pools, you do have a drain down, but with ours, you don't. We have what's called an aquador. It's like for all intents and purposes, it's a Tupperware lid, which goes on a skimmer up at the top level of the water. So you do not have a drain down for winterization. So you keep all your water in the pool, even at the end of the season.
Nice.
Clever. Is it possible to have the filter located on the part of the pool that's farthest away from the wetlands, so the temptation?
Yes, it'll be traditionally as you're looking at the diagram, it'll be on the part closest to the house or the deck of the customer. So it'll be on let's say on the piece of paper, it'll be on the southern part of the diagram.
Okay.
It'll be probably 50 feet from the wetland. The filter tank will be oriented towards the left-hand side of the pool.
Good. Thanks. Valerie, do you have anyone waiting to comment or question regarding this?
I do not. No raised hands.
Okay. In the absence of any public comment, then could I have a motion to issue a -3 determination for 15 Winston Ave, please?
And Mr. Chairman, could you maybe clarify that I know the erosion controls were a condition. Were there any other conditions? I think there was a drainage condition talked about. Is that right?
There was I think the filter is going to be located farthest away from the wetlands. The drainage is going to be negligible, I guess. Nothing happens at the winter. Is that correct?
Yes, there'll be no drain down of the pool.
Yeah. And you did agree to the erosion controls. I saw a nod there. Right?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned silt sock being delivered as part of the installation kit, right?
Yes, we'll bring silt sock and we'll stake it out at the edge of the yard.
Good. So I think we're covered there.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. So I think I asked for a motion, but I'm not sure that anyone made a motion. -3 determination for 15 Winston Ave.
So moved, Mike.
Mike made the motion. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Laura gets the nod for the second. Vinny, how do you vote?
Okay.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex? Alex?
Yep.
A vote?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I didn't hear it.
Sorry.
And for myself, yes. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
So next on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for Shady Lane Drive. And as I understand it, the applicant has requested to continue it till, is it the October meeting?
Yes, October 7th.
October 7th. So I'll make a motion then to continue the public hearing for Shady Lane Drive um, until the October 7th commission meeting. Could I have a second, please?
Okay.
Vinny made the second. How do you vote, Vinny?
Okay.
Ron?
Yes.
Laura? You got to say something, I think. Oh, you can't say anything. She's muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So the next item on the agenda is a continued hearing for the notice of intent for 687 Main Street.
I believe John McKenna, their attorney, is on the meeting tonight. Hi, John.
Hi, Valerie. Hello, Mr. Chairman. John
Hi.
McKenna. I'm the attorney for U-Haul of Eastern Massachusetts with regards to this notice of intent. Mr. Chairman, this is a continuation of the notice of intent. This is for work that was done in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act. U-Haul had paved the area behind the property, which is within the border land subject to flooding in the riverfront area. We filed the notice of intent, and this was an action that was done without a permit. U-Haul had contacted the town and asked, if they need a permit to do paving, and someone down the DPW, no fault of their own, said you don't need a permit for paving, but not knowing it was within this area of conservation, it was a mistake, and my client should have known better on that. So it was picked up on aerial photos, and Valerie contacted my client to tell them to file this notice of intent to make these improvements to correct the situation. So we've been working with the town, and the engineer has been filed plans with regards to a notice of intent to make improvements to this area, to treat the area, to improve the conditions, and have a treatment infiltration, and provide buffer for the riverfront area. We filed the plan and then made amendments after comments. And then we had a recent meeting with the town engineer and Valerie through Zoom to try to, go over details of this, to try to get it moving forward. And the engineer filed the revised plan. We received comments from Valerie and also from the town engineer with regards to Valerie's comments were with regards to why this would be a redevelopment area, why it should be considered a redevelopment area, and more information is needed to address how the unauthorized payment impacted the resource area, and other points that she made. The engineer sent over comments on the revised plan this afternoon about 3:00, and the engineer has those. So what we'd like to do is try to get this thing finished and accomplished, to review the engineer review with the town engineer on his comments, to come to whether or not this is redevelopment or whether it's not, and try to get this situation where what we're trying to do is improve the prior conditions, have infiltration to protect the resource area, have a buffer zone in there, and try to get this situation improved from what it is now and what it was previously. So there's still more work to do by the engineer through the comments that we received, and would request more time to do that, hopefully to the next meeting. And also I'm going to hopefully try to check the schedule with Valerie and Paul and see if we can have another meeting to come together and get the engineer, our engineer, on board with the town engineer as to what's expected to get this situation in a plan presented to the commission, requesting approval of a plan to improve this area.
Thank you, John. Valerie, anything to add there?
Maybe just to clarify, so there's a few kind of large, broader topics, I guess. The site is within the riverfront area. Maple Meadow Brook flows right next to the site. So the pavement, the unauthorized pavement, was done within the 100-foot and 200-foot riverfront zone. The 100-foot riverfront zone is not supposed to be disturbed. It's a no disturb area. It was previously gravel and dirt, but I guess the one of the comments is that paving that gravel and dirt doesn't appear to meet the redevelopment of previously developed riverfront area. So just trying to get a little bit more information on that, or they'll have to look at limiting that pavement within some of those areas. The floodplain, the whole site, I believe, is within the floodplain, or a lot of it. So adding that pavement to the site, what did that do for fill within the floodplain and accounting for that fill? I guess the other thing is that it's in the groundwater protection district. So they'll have to look at the percentage of impervious cover and pursue infiltration as much as possible, and also a special permit with the ZBA. There's a filing with the planning board that's required, and then the town engineer, as Attorney McKenna said, had comments on the stormwater system as well.
Okay. Do you think that you'll have something ready for October 7th? Is that what you'd like to continue it to?
What is the date that we need to get the information in by to have it submitted? So I know October 7th.
Yeah. What would the exact date be, Valerie?
I would think that not the next meeting in October, maybe November, Valerie, because I'd like to meet, we have Labor Day weekend this weekend, but I'd like to get the two engineers together again, because we met before, and I thought that my engineer understood what the town engineer was asking for, but the letter we received today is like, they're not, my engineer doesn't seem to be on the same page with the town engineer by his recent comments. So I'd like to meet with them, hopefully after Labor Day, whenever the engineer is available, to go over exactly, make sure that we have, as Valerie said, my engineer believes that the improvements to the area would meet the redevelopment criteria. The town engineer doesn't seem to think it fits that criteria, so we want to go with that. And we want to get all these areas put together and have a checklist of items of what is expected. And then my engineer should come back and say what is not feasible and why it's not feasible, and get this project done. I'm under strict orders from my client to work with the town and make sure that, we're a good community corporation and working with the community to get this done. So I think with that, and with the way things are now, that a strict timeline may not be beneficial, that we need to get this thing worked, and we have a meeting, have my engineer get the work and get it over to the town engineer for review. So we're not getting the comments the day of the meeting. We can do it, revise it, and then go to commission. So maybe the November meeting might be best to do that. I'd defer to Valerie if she wants a stricter timeline. We'll try to comply with that, but I think there's still a lot of detail work that needs to be done here.
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I don't feel like there's been a lot of effort put into this by the applicant. I'm not speaking about Mr. McKenna. So, they are in violation, and it's been quite some time since we've gotten. There are long periods where we don't get information from them and plan changes, and so I understand that it might be hard to get us some things in a couple weeks, but I also feel like this is taking a lot longer than it needs to.
With regards to the time frame, I mean, again, the spring has been very difficult with the pandemic and the staffing at the engineer's office. One of the people were out with the coronavirus. When we first started this in August and he finally got out there, then it was running into the winter months and then we ran into this. We're trying to get the plans over there. But I think that we need to get, my engineer needs to get together with the town engineer. I thought I did that on the last meeting with the engineer. I thought it went well. And then the work that was submitted by our engineer didn't seem to, it seemed like it was not even close to what the town engineer was expected. So I think the first thing that we have to do is get together with the town engineer and get my engineer on board so he knows what's expected, you know, what areas need to be done. I mean, we're dealing with a situation here that's important to be addressed because of the location of the property. But I don't want to set a time frame that we have to get something in by, you know, the end of this month, that it's not going to be done. If they, you know, it seems like there's a lot of work to be done with detailed work of evaluations. It's difficult for us to get information on what the prior pre-existing condition was because we don't have that information. But the information that we can have, we do have available. We want to make sure it's presented properly in the form that the engineer can review, and then have areas and reasons why something is not feasible so we can, you know, move this forward. So I agree that it's something that needs to be addressed as soon as possible, but I just think that maybe not the next meeting, but the following meeting would be the most efficient to do.
So I too remember seeing this on the agenda for quite a while, continued for quite a while. I'm sort of the opinion that having you continued until October would provide an incentive. I mean, if you don't have all of the material, you can then request to continue to November. But I think that having it continue to October 7th, you know, would really sort of keep the pressure on, if you will.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman. I'll accept that. And I do, as Valerie said, I'm working hard to get this thing done. So, you know, not to blame my engineer, but I just want to get everybody on the same page. My client, through me, accepts responsibility for what's happened here. We want to make sure that the engineer is on board with the town engineer. So that's fine. We'll work diligently to try to get it done for the next meeting. What was the time frame for the information to be submitted for the October, the week before? So it'd be the end of September?
2 weeks before.
2 weeks before.
Mm-hmm. So September 23rd.
So September 23rd, and today's the 2nd. Okay. Can we meet with you, Valerie, and the town engineer sometime next week, Tuesday or Wednesday? I can contact you tomorrow and set up an appointment, try to get that together.
Give us a call tomorrow. Yep.
Great.
Good.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You bet. So could I have a motion then to continue the hearing for 687 Main Street to the October 7th meeting, please?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. A second?
Second.
Vinny seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinny?
Okay.
Ron?
I vote okay. I would like to clarify that rather than just hearing a request for another continuance in October, I'd at least like a progress report that here's what has happened and here's what's scheduled.
Understood. I understand that.
Great. Then I'm in favor.
Good. Thank you, Ron. Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
He's muted.
Can we
One
give Tom a
second.
voice?
1 second.
Yes.
Okay, Tom. Tom, are you a yes?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mike?
I have a question if it won't upset the vote.
Try it out.
Actually, for Valerie, is the determination of the redevelopment question, is that a town engineer question, a conservation commission question, or both?
So 2 different types of redevelopment, right? So there's redevelopment when it comes to stormwater, which is different from redevelopment within a riverfront area. So very different things. A previously developed riverfront area is an impervious surface There's a definition that's quoted or referenced in the comment letter that went out. Paving over gravel or dirt doesn't appear to be to meet that definition. So I guess that's what I'm calling out as far as riverfront area redevelopment. And then stormwater wise, this would be, I believe it is considered redevelopment, but I would defer to the town engineer on that. Two different things.
And the reason I ask is because the applicant seems to be wanting to resolve this with the town engineer, but it might be a conservation commission issue as well.
It definitely is. Yep.
Okay.
I agree that it's a conservation issue as well, and there's several areas that we're going to need to discuss with the conservation. But the beginning part is for my engineer to get on base and on the same page with the town engineer, at least to get the information that we have that's expected of us submitted, because the last comment letter was, it seemed like that my engineer and the town engineer are like looking at two different things here. So that's just the beginning part. But as Valerie said, there's several areas that's the first part, is get the engineers together. But then we need the submission to Conservation Commission, then we're gonna need a special permit, and then we're gonna need the site review as well. So there's several areas, and I'm not saying that, but the thing that I see here is, which I thought I tried to get addressed last week through the suggestion of Kathy, who's done a great work here, was to have a meeting of the engineers to get them together. And I thought we had a meeting and we went over several points with the engineer that he expected, and I thought we had some areas covered. And then when I got this last letter, I was surprised at how far off they were. So that's the beginning point, not to say that there isn't other areas that we need to do, but that's the beginning point. We need to at least get the materials submitted to the conservation for review.
John, yeah, I think we're all set there. Let's continue with the vote. Mike?
Yes.
To continue to October 7th?
Yes.
Okay. Alex?
Yes.
Did I get everybody? And myself, yes. So we've continued this until October 7th, and we hope to hear from you or from the applicant at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, good night. The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for 63 Federal Street.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Joe Orzel. I'm a wetland scientist with Lucas Environmental. I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Sean DeHart. Sean is also present tonight to address any questions that might come up. Based on the comments we received from the commission at the last hearing, we did some revisions to the plans and submitted those. Specifically, we added a stockpile location with erosion control, added a detail on the erosion controls, added a note regarding the rain barrels for roof runoff, and added a note that the 15-foot no disturb line was to be marked. We did receive a draft order from Valerie. There were three of the conditions were highlighted. Condition number 22 regarding the prior to start of construction, the plans would be revised to show some additional rain barrel information. Condition 44, during construction, remove lawn clippings from the BVW.
Oh, Joe, I think we lost you. For some reason, we can't hear you, Joe.
No audio. There you are.
Am I back?
Yes,
You're back.
What was the last thing you heard?
44.
44. Regarding removing lawn clippings from the BVW and the 15-foot no disturb zone. And then condition 48 regarding permanent demarcation. I don't think we have any issues or any problems with the first two. However, the wording of condition 48 is a little problematic. As I had mentioned at the last hearing, the fence going through the yard was definitely not something that the applicant wanted to have happen in the yard. I think the boulders as proposed, the size of the boulders and how close they are, it's also problematic. What we would request of the commission is to treat this condition similar to the condition for the rain barrels and allow some time to come up with a solution that's agreeable to everybody, and submit that information to the commission before the start of construction.
Okay, thank you. Valerie?
Sure. So they did revise the plans. They showed a stockpile area. They moved the erosion controls a bit. As usual, one of our standard conditions is checking those erosion controls in the field just to make sure they make sense. So we'll still do that. For the demarcation, and Joe, so you know the 48 is our typical standard condition for demarcation. So it's highlighted so that the commission can, for discussion with the commission.
Sure.
So that's why I just sort of put it in as it's typically in there. There wasn't demarcation. The 15-foot no disturb was shown on the plan and it was said to be marked. I guess I would suggest to the commission to kind of talk through that tonight so that there's an idea about what that marking would entail. And then I guess the other thing would be the roof, the rain barrels, which portions of the structure that would be kind of directed towards those rain barrels would be the proposed addition or the existing structure. The arrow pointed to the existing main house. So I wasn't sure what exactly would be directed to the rain barrels and what the situation with gutters and gutter lines is currently, and then how it would change with the addition.
Right. I don't think we know those details yet. That's, but we can certainly provide those when those are known.
And those are the questions that I had, Mr. Chairman. I guess it was the rain barrels and the demarcation.
Okay.
As far as the rain barrels go, my understanding was that they were going to be put on the addition, but we have no objection to rain barrels in general. I mean, if putting them on the rest of the house is going to help with this process, we have no objection to that. But my understanding when talking with the engineer was that the rain barrels were going to be on the addition.
That's helpful. That's typically what's done so that the new roof line would be mitigated rather than the existing. So that's good clarification.
Okay. So we'll, each commissioner can sort of weigh in on the idea of demarcation then. Vinny, do you want to start? Your comments?
Get back to the rain barrels again. We're just going to put the rain barrels on the addition, but the plan shows that it's on the main house. Can you clarify that for me? No.
Yeah. Hello. Yes, I think that will be revised as to the actual location based on consultation with the project architect, and that can be submitted to the Conservation Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Any thoughts on demarcation while you're there, Vinny?
demarcation.
Yeah.
Are we talking about boulders? I would prefer boulders, of course.
Yeah, any alternatives to boulders or the fence? You know, as we go along, we can wrap around and talk at the end about it too. We've used shrubs in the past as well. A mixture of things probably is appropriate, is a possibility.
Okay, but I prefer the boulders anyway.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
So our concern, I mean, the reason why we love our house and are doing an addition instead of moving is because we love being next to the wetlands. We certainly don't want to do any damage to them. But 15 feet back from some of the closest part on that is right through our backyard.
Including the swing set.
Including the swing set, and it's where our kids play. And having, you know, a fence or shrubs or big boulders, our kids are going to lose the yard to play in. So we're hoping that we can find some alternative solution. I mean, our engineer showed us, you know, a place, construction they had done that had signs up along the wetlands. We're hoping we can find some kind of solution that, you know, our kids can still play in the backyard when we're done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. We'll talk that through then.
Okay.
Anything else, Vinny, or?
That, I'm all set with that.
Ron?
Am I clear that at this point we're looking for a continuation and more complete plans will be forthcoming?
I don't know. It seems if we have a verbal agreement that the rain barrels are going to take the runoff from the addition, the new addition, that's something that I think is a sort of a minor point. And I guess if we agree on the demarcation, that would be the big.
Yes, I'm sorry, I lost my connection again. I didn't know what was just said. I think we're looking. We're not looking for a continuance. We'd like to be able to close tonight. Condition anything that may be required still.
I thought I heard you say you would like to consider alternatives for demarcation, and if we can't do that tonight, don't we need to continue?
Well, we might be able to do it tonight. Let's try
great.
for that. Yeah. How about, do you have any thoughts given what you just heard about the swing set and that sort of thing? Do you have any?
I'd like something relatively permanent, either fence or boulders, where we're so close. I think I also heard the applicant suggest that they'd be happy with rain barrels for the existing structure as well. And is that now proposed and required, or?
I don't know that it's, I think that we agreed that that would be a nice option, but having the rain barrels for the new addition would be the required item. Am I right there, Valerie? Is that what you heard?
That's what I heard, yes.
Okay.
Great.
Can I just make a comment just for the commission, because it sounds like you know, the backyard is relatively small, and when you're back there, there's sort of a change in grade, and it drops. There's a little bit of a slope down to the wetlands. So I'm not sure of the distance from the wetland, but the commission could consider demarcation closer than the 15 feet. I know that's not typical, but sort of the top of that slope is where I think you'll want people to kind of stay out of. So the rest of it is sort of just used lawn. So you know, demarcating part of the lawn doesn't make as much sense. So the 15 foot here may be a little arbitrary, and maybe it's more of a top of slope type of demarcation out, kind of outlining the existing lawn area and separating that from the slope down to the wetlands. Something for the commission to consider. I know it's not your typical 15-foot no disturb, but something to think about.
Thanks, Valerie.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going to go down to Laura.
Yeah, so like the point of us having the demarcation is so that it's not disturbed, and it sounds like it's backyard, and if that's a play area, then you're not going to be building things where the kids are playing. I would agree with Valerie that a top of slope might make more sense, even though it is kind of counter to our norm. I know we've also considered or let people use like signs on trees or I don't think we've done like a straight sign post, as well as, shrubs. So, I'm torn. I definitely would like to see kind of if we could stick to the 15-foot no disturb as much as possible. I know that's still kind of cutting through the backyard. So yeah, I'm undecided.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tom, how about you?
Valerie, have you or the town engineer visited the site? Have you done a site walk there?
Yeah, I have been to the site.
So it sounds like there's no major concern for you there.
With the demarcation being closer than 15 feet?
Yeah.
I mean, it's always great to have more natural area kind of buffering the wetland, so that any sort of runoff going down through there has additional kind of treatment time before it hits the wetlands. In this case, like I said, it's existing lawn to a sort of slope down to the wetlands. So I wouldn't have concerns. I think the goal is to probably keep, lawn clippings, keep, any equipment or anything out of the wetlands themselves. So I wouldn't have concerns if it was located at the top of that slope or maybe followed, the contour line probably of the floodplain. So that it's just outside of the floodplain, something like that. But like I said, it's not your typical 15-foot no disturb.
Thanks, Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
Anything more on that? Alex?
No additional comment from me.
Did I miss you, Mike?
You certainly did.
Okay.
Well, my thought is that I hear the applicant would like to get this resolved tonight. That would be nice. I would suggest that maybe I'd rather hear from the applicant. They know the land better than anybody, and I know Valerie's been there, but hear from them based on what has been proposed here, what they would like to see, and then define that, and then you can put that into the order and close it out. Because the applicant's got to realize they may be a very good landowner, but this, whatever happens here, applies to whoever owns this in perpetuity. So, just be careful of that. So I'd like to see the applicant make a recommendation what they'd like that best suits them and protects the wetlands at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Alex, did I get you? I'm losing my marbles here. Did you get a chance to comment?
You got me.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess to sort of go with what Mike just suggested, I think it sounds as if you could do probably an attractive mix and match kind of solution where you have, some softer texture near the play area. You can have clusters of shrubs. You could have, the boulders or bits of fencing away from there, following the contour of the, the floodplain as Valerie suggested. What are your thoughts on that?
The sort of drop off area she mentioned, yeah, it drops down, I don't know, two or 3 feet from our yard to the wetlands beyond. And that demarcation, I mean, along most of it, there's already some pretty serious vegetation just because it grows there. And we're certainly not averse to vegetation along that line. Our concern is, anything that's going to be in the yard that is going to prevent the kids from using it. So signs along that drop off, putting more vegetation along that drop off, that's all perfectly acceptable. We're certainly happy to do whatever we can to protect the wetlands. It's a small backyard, and 15 feet from it is over half of it.
Yeah, I can remember having sort of a fascination for wetlands as a kid, coming home muddy all the time. And that's probably what we don't want your kids to be doing.
We don't want them going in there either.
So, it's, again, the idea you could put, you could have a stand of blueberries or something like that. You could do things that are maybe sort of good for the wildlife and maybe good for the table and maybe not so bad on the kids, if they sort of, tumble off the swing, and better than a stone, I think. But, can you sort of see your way to some kind of demarcation that's that sort of works to keep people out of the wetlands, to keep future owners, people who want to dump their grass clippings or blow their leaves in there, that kind of thing?
Yeah, the demarcation is fine. We're concerned about the location. We're happy to do all kinds of vegetation along that drop off that Valerie mentioned, because we certainly don't want our kids going over that or past that.
Well, so are you good at having it just at the cusp of the drop off then? I mean,
we're be fine with that.
Now, Valerie, does that sort of meet the kind of reasonableness standard you were going for?
Yeah, as they said, it's pretty well vegetated along there. There's maybe a break or two in it where it's a little bit more open, where you can dump some lawn clippings and things. So I think there's specific areas where you'd want to sort of maintain that line of vegetation. But it's up to the commission. I don't know exactly where that, the topography shown on the plan isn't fine grading, so it's a little hard to say where exactly that falls as far as distance from the wetland. But there is there is a defined sort of top of slope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I'm not so absolutely hung up on the 15 feet if there's really a drop there, and if we make it difficult for someone to surmount it. Is that something that you could work with the applicant on, Valerie, Cameron?
Yeah, with maybe a little bit more guidance as far as what type of demarcation, whether it's vegetation, if that's okay, native vegetation, shrubs. So maybe just a little bit more from the commission as far as what you'd like to see.
I heard some commissioners favoring boulders. I was okay with a combination of boulders and shrubs, sort of judiciously, spaced. I don't remember hearing fence from anyone. again, to the homeowners is are you sort of on board with insulating the wetlands at the top of slope with some kind of native vegetation where the play area is, and perhaps, where you might find a boulder attractive or something like that, or optionally more vegetation in some other gap areas, sort of putting it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I think the area that comes closest to the yard, we can do vegetation. I think other than that, the wetlands kind of pulls away from where the house is. So, as far as that goes, marking with boulders is, I'm not as worried about the kids falling on those or anything.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, that seems fine.
Does that give you enough to go with then, Valerie? Or is it still?
So
you're still
vegetation,
uneasy?
vegetation and or boulders at the top of slope along the wetlands?
I think that's where we were headed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can work with that.
Yeah, the indigenous vegetation actually sounds rather appealing.
Yeah.
And where, at the corner of the house, back here, you'll see the 15-foot kind of coincides with that floodplain line. So maybe the 15-foot can be met in some areas, and then it's kind of top of slope in other areas.
Mm. So does that, does our consensus sort of find its way into a revised condition 48? Do we have good language for that? A combination of boulders and native shrubs, native vegetation at the top of the slope. Is that?
Yeah, maybe give me just 1 second to kind
Sure.
of. Okay, so permanent demarcation in the form of native shrubs and or boulders, 2.5 to 3 feet in diameter, placed 2 feet apart, shall be installed along the 15-foot setback or top of slope as approved by the conservation agent in a permanent manner to prevent future encroachment.
Sounds good. Was there anything else, Valerie? Otherwise, we'll open up the phones for the viewers to comment, if any.
No, I didn't have anything else.
Okay. Are there any comments from outside the bubble?
So far, we don't have any raised hands. Again, if you're watching on TV and you'd like to call in, ask a question or make a comment, it's *9 on your telephone. But we currently don't have any callers in the meeting.
Could I have a motion to close the hearing for the notice of intent for 63 Federal Street, please?
Second.
Who did the motion, just so I can identify you?
Laura and then Vinny.
Laura made the motion. Vinny seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinny?
I'm okay with it.
Mike?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom? You got to unmute Tom.
I gotta find Tom.
All right. Ron?
There's a lot of people on this.
Ron votes yes.
There you go. Oh,
Tom?
Ron votes yes.
kind of lagging. Yeah.
Alex?
Yes.
Don, yes. So also I'd like a motion to issue orders of conditions as amended, as discussed tonight regarding the permanent demarcation and an identification of what is going to be serviced by the rain barrels. So could I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Vinny seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinny?
Okay.
Mike?
Oh,
Mike's,
hold on for 1 second for Mike.
I'll skip him. Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Back to Mike?
It's not unmuting. When I
I think Mike's gonna not vote on this one.
All right. Don? Yes? Do we give Mike an extension? Do we try and find him?
I think Mike abstained from the vote. I heard him.
All right. I wonder if we've lost him. Anyway, so let's just say that we have all yeses and a unintentional abstention perhaps by Mike. So the motion passes in any case. So thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night, everyone.
Oh, Mike, you're back. Good.
Did something happen?
Yes, they're on their way and you abstained. An unintentional abstention, I think is. So the next item on the agenda is a requestment for amendment to order of conditions for 635 Main Street.
Would you like me to go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. John Tilton speaking from Williams Projects Engineering. I'm representing Jackie. She's on the call here, Zoom. Okay, so what we have before you tonight is a request to amend the order conditions for 635 Main Street. That was Mass DEP file 3441432. It was issued by the commission on February 12th of this year. Mass DEP appealed the order conditions on February 25th of this year. The basis of that appeal was that the proposed filling of 200 square feet of wetland located at the Selly entrance was proposed for the project. Mass DEP had requested we revise the plan to show a minimum of a 1-to-1 replication area, which we did. We revised the plan showing a wetland replication area of 250 square feet. So it's larger than the 1-to-1 that was required or requested. But that being said, so Mass DEP it conducts what they call a de novo review, meaning that they look at the project as a whole, not just what the appeal is on. So they looked at the entire project, every detail, every page, the drainage study, everything. And So in addition to the wetland replication area they requested, they asked for additional information such as replication area details, dewatering station details, erosion control, revised detail, then additional erosion control locations specifically around the piles of debris that were going to be hand cleaned or hand picked. They also, Mass DEP also requested additional special conditions, which was submitted to the commission or the department, which I believe have been added to the revised conditions received in the mail yesterday. Now there's a fairly large, well, a lot of the requested changes had to do with the drainage study mitigation, and they're minor in nature, but there's quite a few. I didn't know if you want to go in detail with those. I don't know if the engineer had time to review it, Paul Looney. He did call me on a phone a while ago to discuss the appeal part of the project, but a lot of them are just minor drainage related issues. So besides that, that's about it. Is basically the major point with DP was the providing replication area that we had not shown in a previous plan. So, I mean, that's all I have. So any questions I'd be happy to answer for you right now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Valerie, your
Sure.
thoughts?
Sure. So if you remember, we had a lot of discussion about the debris piles and how much of the wooded kind of vegetation to disturb to get the debris, and that was discussed a lot. And then we also discussed the filling of the finger-like projection of wetland, and I believe Ryan found the piece of the regs where it said that if it was shaped like this and under a certain size, you wouldn't have to require replication. So we sort of, hung our hats on that. DEP wanted replication. So they're proposing that replication along this line here, along the limit of disturbance. And then they did add some erosion controls around those debris piles that'll be kind of hand-picked. Some of the stormwater changes, which the town engineer did review, he didn't have any comments. As John said, they're pretty minor. They added a catch basin down here at the bottom of the site with a pipe that leads to the forebay instead of a riprap apron. That was one of the changes. I believe the outfall up here at the top of the screen slid a little bit this way. So very minor changes. There was overflows added to the roof drains for the units, and some other minor changes. So we looked at these, and as John said, DEP actually sent us the conditions that they would want to see in the amended order. So we added those as additional special conditions. And at the point, if the commission approves the project with these conditions, then DEP would drop their appeal of the project, and it would be finished. So, and I can, if you want to know every drainage change, I can dig out that letter if you want the list.
Why don't we wait and see if commissioners sort of focus on a need to know?
Okay.
Vinny, questions?
I don't have any.
Tom?
No questions.
Gotta scroll down here. Ron?
No questions.
Laura?
None.
Alex?
Nope.
I have no questions either. Did I miss anyone?
Mike doesn't have any questions.
Mike. Thank you, Mike. With the plan up on the screen, I can't see everybody at once. I apologize. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do we have any comments from the audience on 635 Main?
We don't have anyone on the line. We don't have any callers. So I don't think we have any comments at this point.
Okay. We need a motion first to close the hearing for the request for amendment for 635 Main Street. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Vinnie made the motion. A second, please.
Second.
Laura seconded the motion. Thank you, Laura. Vinnie, how do you vote?
I'm okay with it.
Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Don? Yes. So we need a motion now to issue the amended conditions for 635 Main Street. Could I have that motion?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Second?
Second.
Vinnie seconded the motion. How do you vote, Vinnie?
I'm okay with it.
Ron?
Okay.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
I think I got everybody. Myself, yes. So we're all set. All right. So the main event. The next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for 378, 384 Middlesex Ave.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Hello.
For the record, Andrew Chabin with Princeton Properties. With me tonight are my colleagues Dan Endike and Jeff Brown as normal, and as well Joe Pesnola and David Cowell from Hancock Associates, the civil engineers for the project. Mr. Chairman, obviously the commission has heard quite a bit about this project, so we're going to try and be as efficient as possible this evening. Our suggested presentation this evening consists of Joe Pesnola as our sole presenter. And after Joe's done, some staff commentary we would expect from Valerie and any other staff, and then hand it back to you, Mr. Chairman. But first, we thought it's customary in these instances to hear from town council first. So we thought we'd start with Alex from KP Law and then go to Joe Pesnola, if that is okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Alex?
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Alex Weissite from KP Law. Just a couple of preliminary legal matters that I wanted to address with the commission before we start to dig into the details of this project. So the commission may recall that the applicant was previously before the commission requesting issuance of an ORAD, which the commission did issue, and there was an appeal filed of that ORAD by the Headwater Stream Team group, which is currently pending before DEP. However, DEP has taken the position that it's okay for the commission to review the notice of intent that's currently pending before the commission and issue an order of conditions while that appeal of the ORAD is still pending. So as a matter of law, the commission is not limited in reviewing the application that you have before you. Also, Mr. Chairman, there was some reference by the stream team to a certain final order of resource area delineation from the early 2000s that was negotiated between the stream team and a prior developer at the property. As was established in the initial ORAD review, that FORAD expired as a matter of law 3 years after it issued. It was not relevant to the commission's determination on the ORAD that Princeton filed. It's not relevant to DEP's review in the appeal, and it's not relevant to the commission's review of the notice of intent that you have before you. So just with laying out those initial legal issues, I will leave it to Mr. Chairman to proceed with the rest of the hearing, unless there are any preliminary questions.
No. The only thing, Valerie, I noticed that in my own packet, page 2 of the WPA form was not copied. Has anyone else, is anyone else missing page 2 of the notice of intent form? If you could just put it on the screen, that would be fine.
Yeah, just give me 1 second and I'll pull it up.
And then Joe, you're going to speak right after that, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
Okay, so page 2. All right, hold on 1 second. So this would be the form, page 1. And then page 2 of the form.
Okay, I'm good with that. Anyone else need to see that before we switch over to Joe's presentation? No? Okay, Joe.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Joe Pesnola from Hancock Associates, representing Princeton Development. We have before you a notice of intent for a 108 unit apartment community project that has been approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals as a comprehensive permit, and which this commission has dealt with the site itself in review of an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. It is a 23-acre site comprised of 378 and 384 Middlesex Avenue and a portion of 200 Jefferson. It runs from Middlesex Avenue very deeply back along the railroad and along Lubbers Brook, which are the primary boundary lines of the parcel. As far as resource areas, we do have riverfront that's associated with Lubbers Brook, bordering land subject to flooding, which is floodplain, which is delineated as elevation 82. We are not proposing any work within the floodplain. We have bordering vegetated wetlands and inland bank and land underwater that are associated with the brook. In the existing conditions, the Jefferson Road is developed. The properties at 378 and 384 Middlesex Ave are fully developed right on the corner of Middlesex and Jefferson, with 2 retail buildings and an expansive pavement and septic systems for that. To the rear of Jefferson, there is a large parking lot that was associated with 200 Jefferson, the office building at 200 Jefferson, that was originally needed for 200 for that office building. And after some zoning changes and parking requirement decreases, that rear parking lot has not been used by that office building and is being subdivided off as part of this project and is being developed. Primarily, we have two development pads. The front, which is the area of the 378 and 384 Middlesex, the retail, and this rear parking lot at the end of Jefferson. We are doing work within the riverfront. All the work is outside of the inner riparian, the inner 100. We are doing work obviously in the buffer zone of the bordering vegetated wetlands, but not any disturbance of wetlands as part of this project. And as I said, we're not doing any work within the floodplain or bordering land subject to flooding as far as jurisdictional resource areas. We are proposing 2 buildings to make up the 108 units. The front building will be a 4-story building over a parking under and have 58 units and 93 parking spaces associated with that. And the rear building is 4-story slab on grade with no parking under, but parking external to it with a couple of small 1-story parking garages that have 6 spaces in them each. We are proposing improvements to the Jefferson Road drainage system. Currently, it's a catch basin system that merely collects runoff in catch basins and lets it out direct discharge to the wetlands. We're going to be pulling up the pavement on Jefferson, redoing the grades, introducing curbs, sidewalks, improvements to the general feel of that roadway, improvements that will help access. We are also making improvements to the stormwater management system for the roadway system by replacing the catch basins with deep sump hooded catch basins and adding a hydrodynamic separator prior to the discharge point, providing treatment in accordance with Mass DEP stormwater management requirements. On the building sites, the 2 building sites, we are incorporating porous pavement in accordance with Mass DEP guidelines on the use of porous pavement as a kind of a 3-in-1 BMP. It gets us attenuation, it gets us treatment through the filter course in the under the porous pavement, and it gets us recharge through collection of the rainwater in a reservoir course of stone underneath the filter course for it to get back into the ground. We've done full soil testing out there to understand groundwater and soil permeability, and we've presented a full stormwater management report, calculations, supporting documentation, all in accordance with Mass DEP stormwater regulations. That has been reviewed during the ZBA process and by both outside peer review and by your town engineer, Mr. O'Looney. And I believe you're in receipt of a letter from Mr. O'Looney with regards to his latest review of within the context of this proposal. Back to the riverfront, the work within the riverfront. There's 2 components to that work. There's work within a prior disturbed or impervious riverfront, which would be redevelopment. And there's work within the riverfront in areas that are currently not disturbed. Under the latter, we are allowed up to, or the board may approve up to 10% impact within the riverfront, and impact on from that standpoint is anything, grading, impervious buildings, what have you. Our total riverfront on site is about 440,000 square feet, and we are impacting 38,538, which is not 9% of the riverfront. And again, as I said, we can't do anything within the inner 100, and we are not. With regards to the redevelopment portion, we are obviously redeveloping the area at 578 584 Middlesex, which is our redevelopment area. The existing buildings, existing pavement, and what have you. We are pulling back from the existing disturbed area. The existing impervious will be pulled back. There'll be a decrease in impervious. There'll be, obviously, as I said, the introduction of a comprehensive stormwater management system through the porous pavement and other measures there. And we are proposing enhancements along between the development and the riverfront. There is currently debris, some fill, some lawn area that goes right down to the river. So what we're proposing is to clean that up and to vegetate it with native species that are conducive or that will help buffer the development from the riverfront, provide for habitat, and generally make improvements to that. The switch out of porous pavement instead of the existing regular pavement on the site will also be a positive, in that porous pavement tends to not heat up as much, and also doesn't need as much treatment during the winters. We have presented a full snow management plan for the winter that includes the prohibition on sanding, the prohibition on the use of sodium-based de-icing chemicals, and just generally a very comprehensive approach to what happens to the snow, where we put it, and when we need to remove it from the site. So that has been introduced into your package and is there. Back to the riverfront. As far as the riverfront regulations, if we have impact in the riverfront, we need to provide the commission with an alternative analysis. And the alternative analysis requirements under the regulations is very detailed in how we run through that alternatives analysis. And there are certain aspects, and we've presented that in letter form as part of the or report form as part of the submission package. And essentially what we need to do is first of all, prove that we are in compliance with the performance standards of work within the associated resource areas, the BVW, and the land subject to flooding. And we feel that our submission has done that. We need to speak to protection of rare species. In this case, we have no habitat for rare species in this area. And then we need to jump into the alternatives themselves. So for an alternative to be considered, or for our project to be considered, we need to prove that there are no practicable and substantially equivalent economic alternatives to the proposed project with less adverse effects on the interests of the act. And definition of practicable is right in the regulations, and essentially it looks at considerations of cost, existing technology, proposed use, and logistics in light of the overall project purpose. And the overall project purpose is to provide housing, much needed housing, some affordable housing, and also some transit oriented housing close to the abutting train station. When we look at costs, we need to consider the project costs and look at the alternatives from that standpoint, and look at the alternative from the standpoint of, a reasonable projected costs versus the purpose of the project. And essentially on a Chapter 40B project, excuse me, we have the added benefit of some guidance from the state with regards to the definition of uneconomic. And 760 CMR 56 is the comprehensive permit regulations within Massachusetts. And essentially, they define, the state defines that on a rental project of this kind, we look at the applicable 10-year U.S. Treasury rate and the minimum return of total costs, net operating income, return of total cost. So there's some financial information that we've presented in our alternatives analysis that if the commission would like to dive into that, Mr. Endyke from Princeton Properties can certainly speak to that. But essentially what we looked at was a reduced size project. It's the obvious question. If we're in the riverfront, can we get out of the riverfront? And what we did is we looked at a 72 unit project, which essentially decreased from 108 to 72 by taking groupings of units off the ends of each of the buildings, thereby decreasing the impact to the riverfront. And then we looked at the financial implications and evaluation of that reduced project alternative from a cost standpoint. And essentially, we found that to trip this definition of uneconomic that the state has, and dropped us under the threshold of that the state establishes. We also looked at, just to make sure, we looked at not reducing so far. If we didn't go to 72, could we look at 84? Could we look at 92 units? Any reduction in the number of units would have some commensurate reduction in riverfront impact. And we found even at 92 that there was not, that the project by that state definition was still uneconomic. So our conclusion is that there are no practicable, substantially economically equivalent alternatives to the project, and that we've provided the necessary protections both in during construction for the control of erosion and sedimentation control, and post-construction with the implementation of the stormwater and stormwater maintenance and operations, snow management plans, and so forth, to mitigate the impacts, to offset the impacts to the riverfront. And we feel that the commission is therefore can exercise their discretion in allowing the project with the impacts that are there. Mr. Chairman, in the last week or so, we have been working with staff, both Valerie and Paul, to address comments that have come up. There have been some supplemental information that has been forwarded to the commission over the last week. One of which was a revision of a couple of the sheets in the plan set, sheets in particular, the grading, drainage, and utility plans, sheets 6 and 7, to add the 15-foot offset that the commission likes to see. And as I also said, we have honed and revised the stormwater management plan. And lastly, there was a little bit of an overlap in the garage entrance with regards to the inner riparian. So we made sure that was again outside the inner riparian. Mr. Chairman, that was a lot of information to go through in a fairly short period of time. I think I hit all the high points. Happy to go into more detail on anything that the commission needs feels we should go through. Again, Mr. Endike's here to talk more about financials. I'm an engineer, not a financial guy, so I'll leave that to him if he wants to dive deeper. And obviously here to answer any questions on the technical aspects of the project.
Thank you, Joe. Valerie, do you have comments?
I
so
do.
far? Yep.
I do. So I can go through those with the commission. I'm going to pull the plan up again. So I wanted to just point out to the commission, and it's also a question just to clarify with the applicant. So the lines, the riverfront lines and the wetland lines that were approved through the ORAD, those are being used here. And then in addition to that, the NOI explains that where those lines sort of stop, or where the riverfront line stops there, the settlement plan from the past has been used for the riverfront for the remainder of the site. And there is a request to confirm lines with this order. Wanted to clarify, Joe, confirm the lines that were, or the flags that were approved in the ORAD. Is that the request?
So the lines that were used in the ORAD, which were in particular the riverfront line, we had at the tail end of that process, we had agreed upon and added flags Z100 and Z101, which were about 100 feet up from Z31. What we did to calculate the total riverfront, the 440,000 square feet on the 23 acres, was to go from 101 over to mean high water flag number 27 from the 2003 FORAD settlement plan, and then continue along that settlement plan mean high water to the end of the property to calculate that. And if Mr. Chairman, if you recall, when we were on site at that flag 100 and 101, kind of looked off into towards the west, and there was a kind of a tuft of pine trees that we were kind of keying on that were in kind of a southwesterly direction, and that line that we're using is coincident with that. If we were to use a line that was even more southwest, it would actually add area to the riverfront, because it would have the riverfront being more serpentine, adding linear feet to the overall length of riverfront and therefore the overall area. So we thought it conservative to kind of beeline over to that mean high flag 27 and then continue on with the rest of that. We actually also looked at just if we use the entire settlement plan just as a test, and ran south to the railroad and around the entire settlement mean high water. And we actually got a number that was bigger, a larger total riverfront area, again, because it would be serpentining through the site, adding length. We wanted to make sure that we were where the commission hadn't gone out and looked at and agreed upon an entire riverfront through the 23 acres. We wanted to hit the most conservative approach, which would result in the smallest total riverfront area on site, which would result in the 10% being the smallest it could be. So we think it's a conservative approach and one that the commission should be able to understand and embrace.
Mr. Chairman, if maybe I'll confirm with them that the request though is to just reconfirm the lines that were established in the previous ORAD. I believe that's the request for this round as well. So I just wanted to confirm yes. That. Okay. And then on the riverfront piece, as Joe mentioned, there's a little bit of, where this garage entrance sort of slightly goes into that 100-foot, and they've shown us a different version where that garage entrance is shifted a bit to stay out of the 100-foot. They have committed to a condition where all the erosion controls would be outside of the 100-foot riverfront area. I would suggest to the commission a condition to that effect, and also to have them stake out the 100-foot riverfront area prior to construction, just so we all know where it is and where the erosion controls should be placed so that there isn't unintended disturbance of that area. The restoration proposed, let me go to that sheet if I can. Let's see. So there's an area right beside the brook but right before it enters the culvert. So let's see if I can minimize all of you. All right, so this area right here, the culvert for the brook is over here. This is the edge of pavement, the existing pavement is right around here. The dry cleaner is here. So this area here is mostly grass right now, sort of a lawn. So they're proposing native plantings to kind of fill this in so that it's no longer a maintained lawn. It's a natural area with native plantings, which is a great benefit to the riverfront area, especially so close to the brook. I brought this up in my comment letter. This area in the back of the existing parking lot, they're showing the same thing with some seeding and some native plants. That area right now is vegetated. It does have some, debris, some trash that you can see on the surface. There are some boulders. There are some invasives, there's some bittersweet kind of strangling some of the trees. But it is vegetated, and I guess I would, just maybe caution the commission, maybe a full restoration of that area isn't warranted. Maybe it's removal of debris by hand, maybe removal of invasives by hand, but not actually disturbing the area with equipment and regrading and seeding. And I believe the applicant is amenable to that too.
Certainly. There's a push piles from, sand collected over the years from snowplow operations. It's not in the greatest of shape. So our feeling is augmentation, and certainly a condition that would require our wetland scientists to work with Valerie and the conservation department to tag vegetation that should stay and invasives that should be removed, and then to work together to to take the plantings the native plantings that we're proposing and put them in the right place to make that area as beneficial as it can be to the riverfront. And all of these plants that we're proposing don't need to be maintained. They're naturalized, and that's what our goal is for that whole area, just to be naturalized.
And then, Mr. Chairman, while we're on this sheet, there's a couple of the things on the plant list that might need to be checked for to make them all native in the resource areas. So that would be just a condition. I would recommend that the plant list be native for the resource areas and buffer zones. And then on the, so I asked the applicant to put the 15-foot no disturb on the plan for your reference. I think you have that in front of you. I don't have it on the screen, but there's really just maybe one spot. Most of the site is designed to meet that 15-foot no disturb. I think there's sort of one spot where behind building B, where the retaining wall that holds the parking and garage bays gets closer than the 15 feet, you can see. And then this is maybe just under 15 feet. So areas in the back that don't meet that setback. And for the newer members of the commission, that 15-foot no disturb is a policy, kind of a long-standing policy of the commission's, but it's not a bylaw. It's something that the commission really likes to see, and that's why you've adopted it as a policy to put forward to applicants so they know what to expect. It's not, because it's not a local bylaw, it's not a requirement that they meet that 15 feet. So there is leeway there, and there isn't, I guess, I wouldn't recommend holding fast to that 15 feet because it wouldn't be, you'd want to look at the function of the area to make sure that there's nothing detrimental to the wetland from the proximity. You'd want to look at the function rather than the distance when determining how close things should be to the wetland. Let's see. The one other thing, I don't know, this is kind of a different type of project. So you may want to still talk about demarcation, especially back here where it's, the wetland line does get closer to the building back here. It is a little bit different because it's a maintenance company that will be taking care of the site instead of individual homeowners. But still important that maintenance, not mow closer than they have to. Maybe this area in the back of building B can be more native plantings and less grass to be maintained. So that's something that could be looked at to keep, disturbance and mowing farthest away from the wetland as possible. Snow, there was a snow management plan that was submitted. I don't know if I have that on my screen, but here it is. All right, just let me pull that up. It's worth looking at. Okay. So they've detailed the types of chemicals that they're proposing to use. The plan itself is a little ambitious, with stating 100 feet from the wetlands. There's not a lot of places on this site where you're 100 feet from the wetlands, so that'll just need to be revised to state a more accurate distance. But so these red areas on the plan are being proposed for snow. Taking a look at this, I know DEP's snow removal guidance recommends a distance of 50 feet if possible. They've really kind of taken the furthest spots on the site from the wetlands and from the resource areas to pile snow. So if you see the wetland line is out here, so they're taking these kind of spots where they can find them in the furthest reaches and then putting some snow here. This distance is not quite 50 feet, but pretty close. And then this snow storage here beside Jefferson. So the applicant will be responsible for part of the snow removal for Jefferson Ave as it gets back into the rear part. Snow storage here behind the parking, a little bit close to the wetlands here, and then interior to the parking lot. The parking or the snow removal spaces do look a little light for capacity. So I would recommend the condition that anything that doesn't fit into these areas be required to be removed from the site as a condition.
And we're amenable to that, Valerie.
Perfect. And then there was a mention of signage for contractors. I think that's a great idea, especially in some of these locations where the wetland's about 15 feet away from the edge of the parking lot, so that snow isn't just dumped down toward the wetland. So there could be some places where signage could be really helpful for that for a snow contractor. And I'm sure that all of this would be included in the maintenance contracts. The applicant has already said that would be the case.
Yes.
And then just one small detail, de-icing materials. There was a specific description of where those would be stored. I didn't know if you guys have a typical practice of where you keep things like that. I know it said it in covered areas and maybe even in places that have drainage in case there are spills. But that area can be determined in the future too.
Yeah, it'll most likely be in the garage, building A,
Okay.
in a secure room.
Okay. And had just a couple comments on changes to some notes on the plans, but those were more just clerical things. The town engineer did also submit a list of comments, most having to do with the stormwater. He wrote the comment letter, felt that those could be conditioned. A lot of them were conditioned in the comprehensive permit with the ZBA. He does recommend an educational sign be posted on the site, highlighting the low impact development techniques with the stormwater system, the porous pavement.
Happy to do it.
And then asked for a little bit more detail on the culvert under Jefferson Road, which was also a condition in the comprehensive permit with the ZBA. And then just a change to the roadway section for Jefferson to include a concrete sidewalk, which I believe was in the ZBA approval as well. The stormwater comments that he had drafted were all things that he felt could be provided prior to construction on the site. And that's all I have.
Valerie, just to, Paul's letter is dated September 1st.
Yes.
And on the back, it seems to suggest that the 10 comments that he's made could be conditioned.
Yes.
And Joe, you've looked at the letter?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have no issues with any of
So
Paul's comments.
all of the 10 conditions in that letter could be conditioned. No
Absolutely.
problems with those. Okay, thank you. Was that it, Valerie?
That's it.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Vinny, do you have questions, comments?
No, I'm all set.
I'm sorry, I
I'm all set.
took my mind off it there for a sec. How about you, Ron?
Just when building A has been constructed, and any plans for changes in the retail area that's currently existing?
The retail area at 378, 384 is proposed to be raised, torn down.
Great.
And that's where building A will be.
Just a note, when I got my last haircut, it was at that barber, Rick's Barber. But
Pre-COVID?
That's been a while. Tom?
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, right.
No questions and no haircuts here also.
Let's see, Alex,
Oh, I'm good.
Laura,
I would definitely like to see like a post and rail fence along the wetland boundary behind building B. I know like we require that for homeowners and everybody else, and I think it's fair to require it of this development, especially because the people living there, obviously they're not homeowners, they're not owners, so they won't necessarily know that they can't. I mean, I understand it's gonna be a management company, but right, like I think it'd be good to have kind of a delineation of what is wetland, so they don't go like stomping through it.
Certainly. That's a great idea.
Laura, we're happy to do that.
Okay. And then I know there are trees in the area. What are you guys gonna be doing much for like tree replacement? Yeah. Tree replacement. So there are definitely trees that will be removed. And again, we require of homeowners to do like a 1-for-1 or some kind of ratio like that of, you know, for the trees that get removed, we require the shrubs.
We haven't done a detailed tree inventory to see how many. Again, the brunt of the work is being done in areas that are currently paved. There is some area near the garage entrance for building A and a portion of the building B in the parking lot. We do have a comprehensive landscape plan, so but again, don't know if it's a 1-to-1, but certainly it's a lot of new plants.
Yeah. So I know Valerie, you have, I don't remember the ratios off the top of my head, and I don't know that I'd want like 1-to-1. And I think probably with the landscaping plan, because we'll do like, you know, instead of a tree, like 3 shrubs. So I think likely the landscaping plan would meet a lot of that. But I definitely like to see like number of trees cut down, and kind of the ratio of that to what trees and shrubs are being planned with the landscaping plan. Just because I know we come down hard on homeowners that want to just cut down trees for clearing their yard, or they're worried about acorns. And so it seems a little unfair to, you know, prevent homeowners from cutting down a tree where we're going to let you guys cut down several. So I'd like to see some accounting of, you know, what trees are being cut down, not necessarily what ones, but how many trees, and yeah, something like that. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Is that it, Laura?
Yeah, I think that's enough.
Okay. Alex, did I get you?
You did.
Okay. Let's see, Mike.
No comments.
Did I get everybody else? I did have a few questions. First of all, with the square footage math, I was a little, I need to be walked through that a bit. That it seems sort of complicated. there's the total riverfront, and you explained how you calculated that. The regulations say 5,000 square feet, or 10% of the total riverfront, whichever is greater, that's your allowance. Is that for new development?
Yes, that's for new development, for
And then-
unaltered riverfront.
And then you have the amount that's already developed, which I think you calculated as 37 something, or no, 41,854 as
Right,
as-
there's two areas that make up the prior developed. Where we're doing work within Jefferson, redoing Jefferson, then that's about 10,000, and then there's about 30,000 on 378 and 384.
Yeah. So you keep two sets of books then when you're doing your work then, right? You're using basically the 10% of 440,000 as your maximum for new development, and you're using 41,854 for development in disturbed areas, right? That's
Right,
way
and
it
the key
works?
to the disturbed area development is that it's the same or less, and that we we improve the situation. We can't rely totally on the implementation of stormwater for that improvement, although that's a big piece. That's a big benefit, if you will. We talk about the pullback of the pavement, the enhancement of areas that are currently not the greatest in manicured lawn and trash and debris, and cleaning that up, and doing the enhancement plantings, the invasive species eradication in that area, and also the benefits of the porous pavement, combating heat island effect, and some of the other providing better recharge, as all of our defenses with regards to meeting that redevelopment criteria, that we improve the situation.
Where you have the parking bays that are sort of close to the wetland boundaries. What now, are you just relying on curbing to sort of keep sand, oil, and stuff like that from washing into the?
It's all
into the
pitched
wetland?
away from the wetlands, and it's all porous. So when the water hits, it goes into the porous pavement. And essentially the porous pavement, the way the porous pavement works is the pavement itself is porous.
Mhm.
And then directly under that, there's what we call a choker course, which is stone. That assists in drawing the water through and into it. And just so you understand the capacity of porous pavement, it far exceeds the ability of the sky to drop rain onto the surface. These porous pavement systems, we could take a fire hose and direct it to the pavement, and it would take all of that. So the infiltration rate is incredible. Underneath the choker course is a compacted gravel base. It's our filter course. It's the treatment. So this is a filtration practice as far as treatment goes. That pulls all the oils or any of the impurities out as it works down through, similar to how a sand filter works in a wastewater system. And then down below is our reservoir course, which is another course of stone where the water can sit as it gets into the ground. But the soils out here are very permeable, so our infiltration rate, once it gets down into that reservoir course, will be quick. So there really isn't the ability for water to kind of leave the parking, but we will curb it also, just to aid in the plowing and keeping everything clean and contained.
Well, given what you said about the high water table or the fact that you're going to run into water pretty quickly, does that leave you with the ability to add a robust enough filter layer?
Yeah, we meet the requirements for the cross section, and we also meet the requirements to have the bottom of that reservoir course 2 feet above the seasonal high water. So we start at the water table, and we work the entire system and site up from there. So we are bringing fill into the site. We are raising the site, and that's all based on the design of this porous pavement system and maintaining the groundwater offset. That's required. We also did a mounding calculation to understand the impact to the water table by us putting this water into the ground in these locations. Is there going to be a change to the water table elevation, and are we still okay with that? And the results of the mounding calculation we found that that's also not going to be a problem, and that we fully meet the DEP requirements for implementation of this type of system.
What would be a typical amount of fill that you'd have to add? It seems sort of, are you going to have to put a couple of feet of fill in, or is?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's another aspect of the site plan that kind of aids to protection of the wetland. So we do have some retaining walls along the outer perimeter of some of the parking lots, which give you even a vertical separation where we may not have a huge horizontal separation. Aids to the protection of the wetland and kind of keeping the two apart, the developed side from the naturalized side.
To sort of add on to Laura's comment on tree replacement and stuff, the area where the brook goes underneath Middlesex Ave is the sunniest part, right? There aren't trees to speak of there. So I wonder if that might be a place where we would want to add shade that isn't there.
We are proposing to do just that. In our planting plan, we're bringing in a shrub layer, tree layers, all in that to make that more naturalized, like the rest of the riverfront.
So you'll have more than just shrubs there.
We will,
Okay.
that will introduce that shade and that element that it'll bring, because it is just kind of stark right there. There's just lawn, they mow right down to the river's edge. So yeah.
Okay. Before I ask for any public comment, any commissioners want to recycle any questions? Valerie, anything come up that you want to ask?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So why don't you see if there's any hands raised?
We do have a caller with a hand raised.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute them. And caller, you can go ahead.
I see a muted caller still.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute. Caller, are you there? I'm not having success in unmuting the caller. I'll
Neither
keep.
am
Okay, Cameron, let me try it we might be canceling each other out.
Does that imply that the connection is live to that caller?
I'm not sure.
Could
Maybe
we try calling that number just to see if,
maybe the caller could call back. You know how when I go to unmute you all, it asks you if you want to be unmuted.
yeah.
I'm not sure if it does that to a caller as well, and maybe there's no.
They may have taken your advice.
Yes, so they're gone. Let's see if we get a call back.
Right, I'll be right with you. I'm going to let the cat out. All right.
They haven't come back yet, but now everyone's wondering what your cat does at night.
Well, the cat had to come in.
Oh.
He was already out.
Okay.
I have to check to see if there's something in his mouth, like a small rabbit or something, because I don't like chasing them around the house very much. Yesterday was a bird. And he flew out the front, went in the back door and flew out the front. So strange.
All right, so we don't have a call back yet. If the caller is watching WCTV, I encourage you to call us back and we'll see if we can get you unmuted.
We can maybe talk for a moment about where we are in terms of progress on the hearing. Do you have a draft of conditions, or did you anticipate that there would be some issues that we would have to respond to that couldn't be conditioned?
I have a rough draft that has placeholders in it.
Here we go. We've got the caller back. So.
Okay, so let's try this again. I'm going to unmute. And caller, I'm also told that you can press *69 to unmute yourself. I don't know if that works when you're actually, you know what I'm going to try? I'm going to try something else. Hold on one second.
I see something's appeared in the chat as well.
Okay, so caller, if you could try *69, which is what I'm being advised is what you can use to unmute yourself. I've allowed, there we go.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, we
Oh
can.
my goodness. This is Suzanne Sullivan. Wow, that was brutal.
All right, go for it, Susan.
Okay, let's see. I'm not really, kind of lost my train of thought a little bit with all that, but I just wanted to once again remind the commission and the applicant that whatever the setbacks are, whatever this project is definitely subject to change because, you know, we did appeal the SORAD. So I just want to make everybody aware of that moving forward because I just can't even believe that a lot of the stuff that was presented here tonight as it's like it's a done deal. And it's definitely not a done deal. It's a public process, and the public is participating in it. So I just want to put that out there. I also want to take issue with the fact that on the back section of the property going to the island where the mean annual high water had not been delineated in the SORAD, And, we voiced our objection to it during that process also. But the B line, I think, is how it was determined, from where the cedar trees were to some other pine trees, is no way to delineate mean annual high water. It doesn't even become any scientific way at all. Obviously, the Headwater Stream team is going to push for the correct delineation and the delineation that we had in the FORAD. Just drawing a line from point A to point B is no way to delineate mean annual high water or the riverfront area. And the assertion that by doing it the way that they did it, they actually have less riverfront area is really neither here nor there, because if it's done correctly, that actually creates more riverfront area where the actual project is taking place. And so that's why that straight line was drawn. So as this moves forward, if that doesn't change, that will absolutely be part of an appeal by the citizens on this project. We also take some issue with this idea that the work that they're doing in the inner that's already disturbed is somehow actually a restoration of that area. To me, it's actually just more of an impact. I do have a question of the height of the retaining walls from the ground level up around that section of the project. Hello?
Yeah, Suzanne, maybe you could repeat your question.
My question was what the height of the retaining walls will be along the edge of the parking lot in the inner riparian zone that's now currently, ground level.
3 feet.
3 feet. And I would just say to the commission that that's not an improvement of riverfront. By filling in a riverfront and putting a 3-foot retaining wall that close to the river is not restoration. All right, that's actually more impact. So that's one issue. We would also appeal on that. We do not believe that the applicant has met their obligation to actually create a better situation out there than already exists today by putting a 3-foot retaining wall and maybe putting some native plants in an area that they're probably going to end up disturbing anyways during the project. So they would have to restore anyways. I mean, I don't know how they can avoid not disturbing where the grass area is now.
Well, let me suggest, Suzanne, that Joe respond to perhaps your items as you go through them. Is that something you'd like to do, Joe?
Well, I don't hear anything that I could respond to other than the question on the 3 feet, on the height of the retaining wall.
The retaining walls, I guess did you want to make your, did you want to review the improvements that would result?
Mr. Chairman, I think I've stated our case with regards to the improvements. I've made it clear that we weren't relying solely on stormwater. And Ms. Sullivan disagrees with us with that regard. So I think that would just be rehashing my defense of why we believe it to be an improvement.
Okay, Suzanne, do you have another point then to make?
Yes, I do.
I wanted to sort of where the opportunity exists for you to make a point and then to have someone on the applicant's team respond to it if possible.
That's fine. Yep. No problem. So we obviously take issue to that. We don't feel as though that meets the intent and the requirements under the Rivers Protection Act. I find it almost preposterous to think that the applicant believes, and I don't know, I've never heard of it being applied this way, that you have
Suzanne, you have to
Uh-huh.
phrase it as a question. You know, and just to make things go faster. You know, make it.
Well,
make it a
you
question.
know, is that a requirement in a public hearing that I have to ask a question and I can't make a comment?
Well, just, yeah, you can, but you know, the question is something that can be answered. The emotion is something we can record, I guess.
It's not emotion, it's fact. I mean, I think I have the right in a public hearing to make a comment. I don't think I have to phrase it as a question.
You're probably right. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, once you've expressed it, that we get, if it's something that can get a response, that we'll get you the response.
Well, I mean, the applicant's already said that the applicant doesn't want to respond. I'm here tonight to try to get the commission to understand where the residents of this town and people that are concerned about Lover's Brook and the headwaters of the Ipswich River feel about a project that's not meeting the law. So my intent here is not really to address the applicant in a way. My intent is to address the commission and ask the commission to do the right thing and to look at this project as the Rivers Protection Act requires you to do. And so therefore, I don't feel as though I have to frame my comments or questions directed at the applicant.
Okay, that's a good point.
Per se.
Yep. Okay, so I.
I disagree. We disagree with the contention that they can already have almost 10% of disturbance already of riverfront area with this project along Lover's Brook. And then in addition, they also want to disturb another almost 10%. We don't believe that that's the intent of the law to allow somebody to disturb 20%. And nowhere in the law does it say if you already have disturbed riverfront area that you can now disturb another 10% in riverfront area that's not disturbed. So I think it was 18.5, 18.9% is what I calculated as disturbance of the riverfront area. That's not acceptable. So the Headwater Stream Team would also look to appeal on that if the Conservation Commission were to approve it as it is. Also, I'd also ask the Commission to require the applicant to do a habitat evaluation, considering the amount of disturbance along here, and the Commission has the right to do that. And I guess that's about it.
Joe, did you have something on the habitat? I hadn't heard you touch on that.
No, just that there's no endangered species habitat, and specifically when we do riverfront impact, the regulations require that we address that. And we did. There's no endangered species. So.
And again, it sounded as if Suzanne had sort of the same question I did. The two sets of books, the 10% for newly developed riverfront, and the same for the redeveloped.
Yeah, they are two separate and distinct allowances under the regulations. We've worked on sites that were, 100% riverfront and 100% developed. So I don't see how you would ever apply in the redevelopment world this 10% deal. Well, I mean, we've the redevelopment is redevelopment. We're allowed to continue to have that disturbance, whatever its percentage. It's not tracked because it's again. If it was all riverfront and was all disturbed, then we would have those allowances. The 10% is with regards to new impact of not previously developed, not previously disturbed riverfront. So we stand by that our presentation, our calculations are within the confines of what is allowable and approvable by your commission under the regulations.
Mr. Chairman, may I don't know if I'm muted or if I can still speak.
Go ahead. Yep.
I just want to touch on the fact that under the River Protection Act that there is, I'm not sure if it's a requirement, but it is definitely something that the commission can ask for. And I suggest that you look into it, that if there's over 5,000 square feet of disturbance of the riverfront area, that the commission can require a wildlife habitat assessment to be done. And that's not endangered species habitat, a wildlife assessment be done.
Can you provide a reference to that? Could you, I have my book.
The actual number in the riverfront, can you give me a second and I can cite it for you? Just give me a second. In the meantime, I just wanted to say also, we just go on the record as disagreeing with the double dipping in the riverfront areas. So in the numbers, hold on, it is sorry about that. It is section 10.5 C, and it says proposed work does not impair the capacity of the riverfront area to provide important wildlife habitat functions. Work shall not result in an impairment of the capacity to provide vernal pool habitat identified by evidence the component blah, 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 for work within an undeveloped riverfront area which exceeds 5,000 square feet. The issuing authority may require a wildlife habitat evaluation study under 310 CMR 1060.
And did you say 10.5?
It's under 10.58C. But it's under 310 CMR 1060.
Oh, 58C, okay.
Oh, it's under D1C, so it's under no significant adverse impact. So it's 1058 D1C. I had to go farther up on the regs.
I have to be honest with you, finding things in this has never been easy.
Not always easy. You have to go all the way down the bottom and work your way up when it comes to the Rivers Protection Act.
10.58. 1.
Yeah, 10.58. No significant impact title.
Battery's gonna die.
It's 1058 1 BC, right?
No.
No. 58. Four.
Anybody else anybody else trying?
Yeah, I just don't know how to tell you to get there.
Okay.
It's
under, you haven't found it in the regs, is that what you're saying?
Can you say the section
Ron,
again?
I don't have it in front of me, but I did read it just yesterday because I wasn't as familiar with riverfront regulations as I might be. And I was surprised to see that license there may request an impact, because I know we've never done it and I haven't seen it done, but it certainly does appear to be allowed under the regs.
Mm-hmm. Don, it might actually be easier if you work your way down.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna, it sounds like other commissioners have seen it, and I'm not gonna hold you all up with that. So I guess that's something that we can consider. What's involved in the assessment, Joe? Have you had to do this for other projects?
We have, Mr. Chairman. It's basically our wetland scientist, who's a biologist, going out and just doing an assessment of what kind of critters are using the riverfront, doing an assessment of those areas and what how that may be impacted by the work that we're proposing.
Okay. Does that resonate with any of the other commissioners? Ron?
It seems like a reasonable thing to request. I think in view of the appeal that's to be decided, this project to some extent is on hold. So it sounds like it's a fairly easy assessment to be made, and I have a hard time coming up with an argument to not do it.
Tom?
No, seems I'm okay with it.
Vinny?
I'm in agreement.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a huge cost or a burden to the project, so I don't think it's a problem.
Mike?
Yep, I agree.
Laura?
Laura appears to be, there she is.
Re-unmuted. Yeah, it kind of falls along the lines of what I was saying about checking, keeping track of the trees and making sure we kind of recreate habitat. So yes, please.
Okay. That seems like something to put on the list of things to do. Were there other actionable things that we got from Susan's comments? I think that we had the same conversation about the use of the figures, the percentages. We had conversation about the improvements in the building B area. And I don't know, was there a question about the riverfront area calculation? Or was that, or it may have been more the riverfront line?
I think the question was, are changes additive over time? Do we have a 9% or an 18%, a total of 18%? Right. And I'd appreciate a legal opinion on that. On the
well, okay. So is Suzanne on again? Does she have?
Muted.
She's muted, but I don't know if she's gotten to the bottom of the list.
There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
I'm
can.
here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Did you hear that we talked about the wildlife assessment?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I heard. Yep.
Was there anything to add? Again, just to review you had a concern about the riverfront line itself. Was it also the riverfront area calculation or just the riverfront line?
Well, the riverfront area calculation would be based on that mean annual high line, over by, building B where the line stopped in the SORAD.
Yeah.
So we definitely, obviously, contest that line, that B line. I think it was stated as that goes to the island. We definitely contest that. So I just want to make sure the commission knows that.
Okay. And you had a disagreement about the improvements in the building B area with the previous pavement, the retaining walls, that issue.
Yeah, the building A up where there's now the grass area. Yes, we don't believe that falls into. Typically, when according to the regs, anyways, in the guidance, that when there's an impacted 100 area, especially that close to the brook, that any restoration or any proposed work in that area and a redevelopment should move as far away from the brook as possible. Obviously, the applicant doesn't want to do that and wants to do a analysis and say that it's not feasible. But we also intend that parking could also go on the other property that not the proponent owns, but the donor owns on the other side by the railroad tracks for parking. They do not have to have parking there. They can move parking over to there. So we think that should be included in the analysis because that's one of the things you do in the analysis is you look at alternatives and not just the alternatives that they presented, but there should be other alternatives. And a lot of times that would include other property that's owned in the area. And if the town's a proponent of this and the town wants it, then maybe the town should offer up, some parking at the parking lot or do a switch or do something to move as much of that impact away from the brook as possible. So that would be something that we would definitely be looking for. And, if we go forward, if there is an appeal of the NOI, because we don't believe that the alternatives analysis has been done properly either.
Is the parking something that has been? Do you have alternatives to parking, or is the parking is what it is? To Suzanne's.
We've addressed the availability of other parcels and availability of land in the alternatives analysis, and that's addressed. It's not available.
Okay.
We don't have it under control, and it's not available.
Okay. So the one outstanding thing I think we can do something about then is the wildlife assessment.
Yep. So
that's what I hear. Everything else is maybe a difference of opinion.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Back to you, Joe. Is that something that can?
Yep, we can get that done in short order, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Joe, we can do that as a condition. Is that right?
Correct.
Sorry, I missed. Somebody said something and I missed it.
Mr. Chairman, we would be, it's Andrew from Princeton, we would be willing to do that wildlife study as long as it's, we would request that it be done as a condition prior to construction.
Yeah, well, practically speaking, we don't have conditions that we can issue. So you can do it right away and not have to have it be a condition. Yes.
We agree, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So practically speaking, then we're going to continue the hearing.
Valerie?
Yeah.
Is the intention to continue the hearing, or, you know, to a particular date, or what's the thought process?
Yeah, well, if the hearing's going to be continued, it would be continued to a date certain. Sure.
In terms of the study, when would you, I guess what you might have left unspoken, Valerie, is do we have the bandwidth for doing a single topic meeting in between the two meetings, regular meetings? Or are we on the October schedule?
That's up to you guys. If you want to hold a special meeting, you're certainly welcome to.
October.
Vinny, did you say October?
I don't have the date. October, the October meeting, whether that falls. The third, second, what, I don't know. It's probably the second.
If it were October, I think it'd be the 4th, right?
The 4th? Well, whatever, I don't have a calendar in front of me.
October 7th is our regular scheduled meeting.
Okay, yeah.
If you'd like to hold something before that, we'd have to figure out the date for it and if people are available.
Yeah. And what would be would it be a Wednesday? And what would be the sort of requirements for notification and stuff like that?
We would just have to post it. So it would be posting the meeting 48 hours in advance, and also, you know, setting that date tonight and continuing to that date.
Okay. Are other commissioners willing to meet on a single topic hearing?
Mr. Chairman, if it would help, Joe believes we can be ready for a meeting 2 weeks from this evening, which would be 9/16 if the commission is available.
I'm going to just.
Do you know, Joe and Andrew, would you be able to get the materials to the commission? How far in advance?
We can get it done by the end of next week.
Valerie, can we get an opinion on whether or not the 10% limit on disruption is additive over time or not in a week or two?
I can certainly request that. So the request, though, to be clear, so what I heard was whether the 10% is applies to new development and redevelopment. The question is whether redevelopment is separate from that calculation.
Yes.
It stands. Yeah. Okay.
Is the 16th a little bit too soon? Do you need a week more than that? Because of the notification requirements, or is the 16th good if?
No, administratively, we can make that work.
Okay.
Just need 48 hours, Mr. Chairman.
Right. So I checked. I could do a meeting on the 16th. Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
I'll have to check something else. There's something that might be that night.
Okay. Vinny? 16th?
We're looking at September 16th, right?
Could you do a meeting?
I could do it.
Okay. Alex?
I think so.
Laura?
I can. I would prefer to continue until to the October meeting. It sounds like there's a lot of clarification and other things to get done, even though you say they can be done quickly, I'm sure, but I think it would be to our benefit to spend time to make sure it's done fully and correctly the first time.
I think though that there's some things that there's going to be, there won't be a resolution perhaps that everybody's going to love. And we're just going to say either we go ahead or we don't go ahead. And we may never find out unless it gets appealed and someone says you were wrong.
Okay, I would still prefer to continue till October, but I am available on the 16th if we were.
Okay. Mike?
And I'm not available.
Not available. Laura would prefer October. And who else had an iffy? Tom?
Wait a minute. Although I said I could do it the 16th, I would prefer to go to October.
You would? Okay. And I think Tom, are you?
I'm just not sure about the 16th.
Not sure about this. Okay, let's plan on the regular October meeting then, just to make sure that we have as much of a full house as we can.
Would you like me to prepare a draft order of conditions for October?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, good.
I think that we're an opinion on the new development, redevelopment being cumulative or separate, and the wildlife assessment. Those are the two open issues.
And the retaining wall.
What would we?
The issue was that it was, Suzanne was saying that the 3-foot retaining wall was cited as an improvement to riverfront, and in fact, it's not.
Mr. Chairman, that's a matter of opinion. There's nothing in the regulations that would state either way. The whole idea of improvement in a redevelopment riverfront is left to the discretion of the commission.
Is it fair to say, Joe, that the retaining wall is a consequence of having to build up the site to make the pervious pavement work, among other things? That's why you need a retaining wall, because it's going to be.
Yeah, it would. Right now, the pavement pitches directly to the river.
Yeah.
Untreated, unattenuated.
Okay. So I think that
you therefore have to elevate.
Yes. So I think the retaining wall is a consequence.
Not towards the river. So it's a net necessity.
Yeah.
To end up with a benefit.
Right. Okay. So the applicant's case is that the overall improvement requires that a retaining wall be put in there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So still two things.
And was there one other thing, a tree analysis?
I'd wanted them to keep track of kind of the number of trees versus the number of shrubs, et cetera, that they're replacing, because we require it of private homeowners. So I think it would be fair to ask them to keep track, and then if at the end of the day, or for the NOI or next meeting, whatever, that if we want them to plant more, basically, or if we feel that what they are doing is enough. But I'd like to have that information before I sign off.
So in the areas where you're going to, because of new development, be cutting down trees, is that going to be reasonably easy to assess?
Yes, as the biologist is out doing the wildlife study, you can also count trees.
And I think we've only required like in the buffer zone.
Yep.
Not the whole thing.
We can do that.
The ones you're going to take out, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So that's 3 things then. Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, it's Andrew. We're happy to continue to October 7th. I just sort of want to leave everyone with sort of the overarching issue that I think Joe was just trying to touch on there, which is, at the end of the day, what we have here is a site with lots of hard pan, no stormwater management whatsoever, piles of debris, etc. I think it's impossible to escape the conclusion that the water quality and the town are net better off with the project built than the current condition. And, I think there are times when we can all get lost in some of the detail and it needs to be ironed out, and it should be, and it will be. But I'd like everyone to just sort of keep the overarching issue here in mind, which is that, once this is done, we're going to have a full stormwater management system and ultimately a better impact to the environment than what's currently going on there now with 18-wheelers and hard pan and debris and trash, et cetera. So I just want everyone to, if they would, just to keep that forefront of the mind.
Thanks. Okay, I think we're set then to vote on a continuance, yes? Look for nodding heads. Okay, could I have a motion to continue the hearing for 378, 384 Jefferson Road, October 7th?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Vinny seconded. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Okay.
Alex?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Don, yes. Good, thanks very much.
Thank you, members. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Okay. There's a lot of paper here, boy. So the next, I might have lost the agenda or buried it. Is the next one 26 Douglas Ave?
It is.
Okay,
It is. It's 26 Douglas, and they've requested to withdraw the project.
Mhm.
So if you see that as the appropriate thing, you can just vote to accept their withdrawal.
okay. Could I have a motion to accept the withdrawal of the ANRAD request for 26 Douglas Ave?
So moved.
Second.
A second, I got second from Vinny. Laura made the motion. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Vinny?
Okay.
Mike?
Yes.
Did I get you, Alex?
No, but I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. And myself, yes. We have now a request for certificate. Is that right? 14 Somerset Place?
That's right.
Okay,
So both Cameron and I did a site visit, and everything looks like the approved plan, and it's ready to issue.
okay. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 14 Somerset Place?
So moved.
Second.
Laura made the motion. Vinny seconded the motion. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Vinny?
Okay.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Don, yes. Is the next 70 Taplin Ave?
It is.
Okay.
They actually have to give us a report on the restoration area that was disturbed, and they replanted. So we're waiting for that report. So they've asked to table it to the October 7th meeting.
Okay. Could I have a motion then to table the request for certificate of compliance for 70 Taplin Ave to October 7th?
So moved.
Laura made the motion.
Second.
Vinnie seconded. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Vinnie?
Okay.
Tom?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Don? Yes. Been late. All right. Do we have an enforcement order next?
Actually, we have the railroad right-of-way certificate of compliance, which they submitted a report that the Japanese knotweed that we discussed at the last meeting was treated and as they promised to do. And unless the commission has any questions for them, I know Clary's here, Sam is here on the meeting. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions, but I do believe that now that that's been treated, this is ready to issue.
Okay. Anyone? Let's go with a motion. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for the railway right of way? And I got a premature so moved from Laura. Yes.
Second, go ahead. Second.
How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Vinnie?
Okay.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
There was a yes.
Oh, okay. Alex?
Yes.
Don? Yes. All right. So what's next?
The enforcement order for 31 Eleanor Drive.
Okay.
And let me, the commission required submittal of a restoration plan, which was submitted to us. And I can pull that up on the screen. Wanted to put that on the agenda so that you could see it. If you had any questions about it, this was where portion of the conservation restriction area was disturbed and going to be restored. So they gave us a planting plan with native shrubs, and I reviewed it. I think it looks good as far as the types of shrubs that were picked. But wanted to see if you had any questions. I believe the work is from the enforcement order. I believe it's supposed to be done in November or by November. That is sort of ongoing. So if you have any questions or want to ask the homeowner any questions about the planting plan, he's on the call. Otherwise, this restoration plan he can use to restore the area.
Great. Thanks, Valerie. Ron, questions? Comments?
No.
Tom?
No questions.
Vinnie? How's it look to you?
Who, me? Oh, okay. I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Perfect. Laura?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mike?
No questions.
Alex?
No questions.
And no questions for me. Nice job.
All right.
So,
you guys, I appreciate all the help so far. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
Have a great night, guys.
You
Yeah.
too.
Bye now. So it is what it is, right? We don't have to vote on anything.
I don't think so. I mean, you certainly can if you want to, but
Voting's getting old. We're doing okay. All right. Next, what do you have?
next is the notice of violation for 1A Kendall Street.
Okay.
This is sort of a little in flux, I guess, at the moment. So I got some calls from folks who live in the area a few weeks back about vegetation being removed where they believed they remembered some wetlands. So I went out to the site. I met the homeowner who's on the call as well. And we walked the site. There is an order of conditions for the property when the house was built. And there was a 15-foot no disturb zone established through that order. On that order, they showed the wetland as a bordering vegetated wetland. So we sent out the notice of violation, outlined that the homeowner should get in touch with a wetland scientist and look at doing a restoration plan. Asked him to attend the meeting tonight to discuss it with you. And he did get Norse Environmental to come out to the site. Maureen took a look at it. She thought that the area was isolated. I met them out there. We walked it. It does appear to be isolated, so I'm not sure that it's bordering wetlands. I think it might be isolated wetlands as they assessed. I guess the next question to sort of to tackle is whether it's isolated land subject to flooding, another resource area. So I've asked them to get in touch with a professional engineer or a surveyor to look at that area to see if it meets the requirements of isolated land subject to flooding. If it doesn't, then the area would not be jurisdictional, and he could, he could regrade it, and he could, be fine with taking the vegetation away. It's kind of a complicated one because it has an order of conditions associated with it. So I did get in touch with DEP. I called them about it and confirmed sort of the process for almost the possibility of doing away with that order. So the reviewer that I talked to said that yes, if they show that it's isolated wetlands and then they show that it's not isolated land subject to flooding, then they would have overcome the existing order on the property and be able to regrade and fill that area. So waiting now on a report about the isolated land subject to flooding piece of it. And I know the homeowner's on the call. If he has any questions or concerns, welcome to go over things.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Hi.
How are you? This was the longest meeting. I have never been on a town meeting. I walked in at 7 o'clock. I guess I enjoyed pretty much most part of it. It's a lot of learning experience here.
Last month we went all night. What do you mean?
Oh my God. Thank God I wasn't on that one. Basically, on Valerie's recommendation, we went to a scientist, Norse Environmental. They came in twice and did the the soil testing and everything. Also, Luke Roy, the engineer from LJR Engineering, said the same exact thing. The scientist had provided that this area, the property I'm on, it's only 11,000 square feet. And for an isolated land subject to flooding, the area needs to be much bigger. So basically, they're saying that it is the result's going to be the same, and it's basically is unnecessary for us to do a survey on my neighbor's property because it's not even I'm not filling on their property or everything. And both Luke Roy and the scientists recommend the same thing, that to request if that condition can be waived because it's a very small piece of the property which is isolated wetland pocket, and it's not subject to flooding. So that is what I want to request.
Does the isolated wetlands, is it present on both of your properties so that it's the sum of what's on your property plus what's on their property is the number to be thinking about?
And I talked to Luke Roy about that, and he said even because he did a survey with me at the property, and he said it's a very small area. It cannot be a quarter acre, which is a requirement. It's very, very small, and it's not possible to being a wetland isolated pocket to subject to flooding. So that's why he was saying that it is unnecessary to do this whole analysis because it's a very tiny area. And Valerie was there, and we did a whole on my neighbor behind me as well. There's no entry or there's no exit for any kind of stream or wetland, like a exit for any kind of stream to around it. So I don't know. I mean, up to you all. If that can be resolved, that'll be really nice because they both professionals professionals are suggesting not to do it because it's a very tiny area.
Where would the water come from? Is it just, is there a water source nearby, or would it just be rain, snow melt, or?
Nothing in the around more than 100 feet, 100 feet, there's nothing around it. That is a stream connected to my property or the neighbor's property that is subject to flooding. So, there might be rain, water coming down, but, there's no floods or anything over there. And I've been there 7 years myself.
So is that sufficient rebuttal to the isolated land subject to flooding, Valerie, or do we need a letter from someone?
We need a letter. So the regs outline what has to be shown, and they specifically state, that an engineer needs to, show that, so that the depression does span his and his neighbor's property. So they would need to look at the topography to see whether that area holds the cubic volume and at a certain depth or more, and show that that's not the case. So we're not saying that it is the case, but they have to overcome, because there's an order of conditions on the property and there's a 15-foot no disturb, and it's showing those wetlands as jurisdictional. They have to overcome all of the things to show that it's not jurisdictional. So we need that analysis as stated in the regs.
So the one or both of the people that you spoke to would have to write, they would have to support that.
So North Environmental has already submitted the report to Valerie and given the measurements on her, on her report. I don't know how to go into my neighbor's property and do an assessment on his land. I don't think it's my place to do it. It's his property. I'm not even sure if he's gonna let me do it because I just don't know how to go and do investigation on his property. I'm not sure about that because North Environmental prepared a 3-page report and submitted to the town so that it basically outlines everything.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, that the report did outline that the wetlands are isolated, that there's no entry or exit point, there's no connection. Yep. It did not address the isolated land subject to flooding. So we just, I guess we need something more, because right now the property's in violation because the no disturb zone was devegetated and trees were cut in the wetland. I do think that, it may turn out that the area is not jurisdictional, but right now it is. So he has to provide those things to show us that it's not, so that.
So you may just need permission to have a surveyor go on your neighbor's land and shoot a few measurements, which combined with your measurements will give the total area of the land, which then can sort of allow the volume calculation to take place.
And if the neighbor is not approval of that, then what do we do?
I think you're still in violation from the sound of it.
Okay, so basically, Valerie, will I be able to get some help from you? If I can go and ask the neighbor. I can just say it's a request from the city as well. Will that be an okay thing to ask?
Say that one again.
Like if my neighbor, I don't believe he should have a problem, but I'm going to request to him tomorrow and ask him, but I can just say it's, it's a city's requirement, right? I just want to quickly check topography. I mean, we're not going to do anything work over there. They're just going to take some measurements, right? I mean, I've never done this kind of work before, so I'm not sure what's involved in it, what's needed in it.
Yeah, they wouldn't be doing anything disturbance wise. They would just be taking, the topography of it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I would be surprised if your neighbors had any objection, because you showing that area is not jurisdictional, benefits them too.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay.
I
Yeah.
guess if they need an explanation, would you be willing to talk to them, Valerie?
Yeah, sure. I can explain. I can explain why it's required. Sure.
So you could drop her name, and if they have a question or something, they can call Valerie. And
No, definitely. Yeah, the neighbors are really nice. I mean, they're all pretty good. I don't think he will, but this is, I've never done this kind of work. I have no idea what's involved in it.
Yep.
So
My 2 cents in real quick. So it sounds like, Bud, that you are not familiar with what surveying is, and it's basically one guy's going to set up a tripod with a little computer on it, and another guy's going to walk around with what amounts to a very long measuring stick.
Okay.
And take measurements, and that's it. It's just one guy standing still and one guy walking around with a stick.
Okay. All right. That's perfect.
Nothing complex.
Okay.
And then both, you said you talked to Norse and Luke, and both of them should be able to help explain things to your neighbors as well.
Yeah, that should be okay. I've spoken to Luke, and he is basically saying that he can do, he's out for a few weeks, but he said I'll try to get this done for you next week. So I think once we can provide the report, we should be in in the right direction, I believe.
So if it's okay with the commission, maybe we can put this back on the agenda for October, to see if there's a report from Luke, and maybe have it resolved by then.
good. How's that work for you? Fine.
Just a request. I mean, I'm sitting with a little bit of dirt on my property for a few weeks, and it's looking really bad. And like the frost is coming up, so I would like to get this done resolved earlier, because it's already been stretched for almost 5-6 weeks now. If if I can provide the report next week, I want to request Valerie, because it's just pretty much most of the stuff is already figured out. It's just that one report from Luke doing the calculation, which I can submit to Valerie next week. If with that can let me do the work, because it's already delayed quite a bit.
It's a violation. Do we
If
all
you-
have a role in erasing it, or would it be sufficient for you to know that if they come back with an answer based on a survey that it's not isolated land subject to flooding, you could say, okay, you're off the hook?
If you all are fine with that, I'm okay with that. I can review the report and
Yeah.
okay,
How
that's
do you
great.
feel about that, Ron? Tom? Vinny? Is that okay with you? Laura?
I'm good with it, that we basically, as a condition, say you can submit a report in the next week and have Valerie okay.
Yep. Alex?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's a majority. is
Okay.
Comfortable with that. I am too.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for your time. I'm glad you enjoyed the entertainment.
Experience, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come again.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Yes. Bye now.
Again.
All right. What else do we have?
All right, so we have an administrative tree removal for 12 Weber Street. There were 5 trees hollow at the base, so they are removing those through the administrative process and replacing them with a line of shrubs. 12 Earls Row, we had 1 tree that the roots were being undermined by drainage coming out of a drainage pipe, and the tree is leaning towards their neighbor's house. So they are taking that out. Where it was sort of a damaged tree and just one of them, we didn't require, Cameron, correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm not sure if we required replacement or not. I think we said it was okay to not do replacement because it was a single.
Yeah, I think we gave them the option of if they wanted to, they could, but we weren't going to require them to.
Because our ratio is higher than, one tree. So, and that's something we can talk about a bit more when we have more time, but just some of the finer details of our administrative policy, we have questions for you.
Okay.
So we'll get to those another night when it's not so late. And then I don't know if you've found your agenda yet, but next is an emergency certification for Shawshene Avenue right-of-way. This is the Shawshene, the bridge that goes over the Shawshene, right by the aqueduct. So someone who was canoeing saw that one of the drainage pipes that comes out of the wall was the water was coming out below the pipe. So the water was not coming out of the pipe; it was coming out below the pipe. So DPW checked it out. They found that the pipe had been crushed, a section of it crushed by a rock, and the drainage was just sort of coming out where it wanted to. So they were worried about the stability of the shoulder, and they didn't want a storm to kind of take out the shoulder and undermine the bridge, or even there's a USGS gauge station there. So they were too worried about it to let it go any longer. And so their plan is to, and they may have actually already done it, they're taking, they're going in and lifting the rock out and putting a new sleeve of pipe just to connect that, to just kind of get rid of the emergency aspect. And then what they're going to do is file with the commission to line the entire pipe at a later time. So DPW issued the emergency cert. Paul kind of declared that it was an emergency, the town engineer. And that was issued, and that'll be ready for you all to ratify once we get your signatures.
Okay, but we vote to ratify, yes?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification for Shawshene right away?
So moved.
Vinny made the motion, and Laura?
I'll second.
You seconded? Okay. How do you vote, Ron?
Yeah. Okay.
Vinny, how do you vote?
Okay.
Tom?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kathy? Just a test. Don, yes.
Getting late.
Sitting there patient
Yeah.
for the whole-
Ron like Vinny.
Okay. And then one more thing, well, it's not. Okay. Monitoring report for 61 Ashwood Ave. This was, they had taken down some vegetation in the conservation restriction town-owned land, and they did some restoration work. A couple years back, we got the final restoration report. We gave that to you in your packet. We thought it looks pretty good, and I think it's ready to issue. They showed that all the metrics had been met. And I know the homeowner's on the line if he has any questions or comments, but I think he was just going to listen in.
That's correct, Valerie. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
So if you have any questions, can take those, but looked good.
Okay. Why don't we just, if it looks good and it's documented, why don't we just, is it 61 Ashwood?
That's
it
correct.
is. Yeah.
I already lost that piece of paper. So could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 61 Ashwood?
Just
So
one slight, I think it's a return to compliance letter that we issue. But yes, that's
Okay.
same thing.
Return to compliance. Okay.
Yep.
Valerie, can I ask one question?
Sure.
So I think we had a kind of on my kind of a property deed record. I think we had put this enforcement order. So what would I need to do to basically have that at least removed? Because that's what I think we had done when we started the project. I think Ryan requested that, and I had gone to the registry and kind of required that to be added to my property.
Yeah, so what they're going to vote on right now is that I'm going to issue a letter that states that you've returned to compliance.
So,
And
do I
so-
need to go back to registry and then show them and remove that enforcement order?
I believe that return to compliance is then filed with the registry to show.
Do
that
I
you-
need to do that, Valerie, or would it automatically happen?
No, you would need to do that. So
Okay.
we'll get in touch with you after the paperwork is ready.
Okay, perfect. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a motion, and I think we had a second. And I'm going to start the voting all over again. Ron,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Vinny,
Okay,
Laura, Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Laura, Don, yes.
Yes.
Yep, there we go. I heard the yes. So we're all in agreement on that. I got another request for certificate for 16, 16R, and 18R Boutwell. It was in my packet, but I don't know if it's on the agenda.
I
Haven't
didn't-
lost the agenda.
I did see it in the packet though.
It's not on the agenda, so we will take that up next time.
Okay.
But before you get to the minutes, I think we have to revisit the railroad right-of-way RDA. We voted a -3. They requested a -2 and 5. So -2 is the work described in the request is within an area subject to protection under the act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent. I think that's accurate. Number 5, it talks about the area described in the request is subject to protection under the act since the work described herein meets the requirements for the following exemption as specified in the act and the regulations. No notice of intent is required. That one I'm not as sure of, and I'm going to check on. But wanted to sort of flag that we come back to that RDA. And maybe you guys could discuss the minutes while I look into it.
Okay. Has everyone, let's take a moment to look at the July 1st meeting minutes.
think they look beautiful, Kathy, and we appreciate your effort in listening to our recordings 3 times in a row to get these.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
The July one was the one where you fixed my name, wasn't it, Kathy?
I want to say it was the August one. It was the August one, Dawn.
All right. So,
I found some additional changes for August, but not. I think July was okay.
on page 2,
Yeah.
the third paragraph, if you could add an A,
Oh, you're still a person there.
that go from person to Pearson.
Dawn, I wish I could get you straight.
All right. That's all I had on that. So is everyone good on the July meeting minutes?
Yes.
Shall we move ahead with a vote to accept? Now, Alex wasn't there. So we can have everyone else. Could I have a motion to accept the minutes for the July 1st meeting, please?
So moved.
And a second? Ron moved it. Second from
Laura.
Laura. Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yep. Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Did Mike respond?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. And Don, yes. And Alex was abstaining. So August 5th meeting minutes.
So on those, let's see. Well, I know there were changes on pages 10 and 11. One is Dawn's name on page 10. And on page 11, it was just the spacing.
Ugh.
And when you're ready, I can tell you just where that was.
Okay,
Is that okay? You ready?
that's okay. I'm ready.
All right.
Everybody else?
So Dawn, again, it was your name
Yeah.
under the 30 Green Meadow.
Uh-huh.
So I've already corrected that under the vote. And then under the grant application that we talked about,
Yep.
just the spacing, the word "to" is just on a line all by itself.
I noticed on this one, it says minuted. for
Oh,
Jan-
you're right. So see, there's another one. Okay.
Yeah. So everyone okay with August 5th? And this time it will be everyone but Mike. So could I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for August 5th?
So moved.
Laura made the
Second.
motion. Vinny seconded it. We'll wait for the clock here. That's an incentive to have meetings end sooner, to listen to fewer chimes. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Okay.
Laura?
Yes.
And Alex?
Yes.
And Dennis?
I see.
Okay, good.
And then one last thing, I would recommend that the vote for the railroad right-of-way RDA actually be a -2 determination instead of the 3 that we voted, because it's not just buffer zone, it's actually in the jurisdictional areas, but won't alter or fill or dredge.
Okay, can we just simply vote that and we don't have to unvote the earlier one?
I think you can just vote to change it.
Okay. I'll make a motion to amend the earlier vote for a -3 determination for the railroad right of way to make it a -2 determination for the
Second
railroad
that.
right of way. Seconded by Ron. How do you vote, Ron?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Vinny?
I'm okay with it.
Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Don, yes.
Thank you, and that's perfect. Thank you.
Are we set then? Till next week, or till next month, I should say.
I believe so.
Okay.
Can we, for next month and future meetings, figure out a way to kind of make the basic ones go faster? Because by like, I don't know, we were still in the pretty simple public hearings before we got to the Middlesex Ave argument.
It was 9 o'clock when we got there.
Right. So according to the agenda, it should have been like 7:50.
Yeah, I think that may be on me. I could have maybe encouraged people to be brisker. I'll try and keep that in mind.
I think it's partially on applicants as well. Well, more than partially, but yeah, even if we can just ask them to be direct and addressing specifically what's required, because I know a lot of applicants kind of go off on tangents
So
about.
to say thank you through half of when they've gotten through their remarks. Thank you.
Yes. Or like, please direct to, yes, I don't know.
Okay. Well, point well taken. Thank you all for your time. I'm sorry it was so much of it that we took up.
I miss seeing you guys. I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting.
All right, a second?
Yes.
All right, Ron, how do you vote?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Mike?
I'd like to stay up a little bit longer, but
I haven't had supper yet.
Go look for Don's cat.
Oh, man. Alex, I'm going to eat the cat now. Alex?
God. Yes.
And Don, yes. Thank you all.
Thank you. Good work tonight.